Chapter 171. In the dense mountain forest, a strong Siberian tiger suddenly rushed out. Along with the tiger's roar, waves of sound spread in all directions. The baneful creature that was about to enter the range of the array suddenly turned around and ran into the distance at an extremely fast speed. In just 2 or 3 seconds, it disappeared from the range of Tan Xiu's spiritual sense. Damn it! Tan Xiu cursed in a low voice, but he still lurked in the bushes. What happened? Asked Miao Wentong in a low voice. I sensed that the baneful creature was approaching the array I arranged, but a Siberian tiger suddenly rushed out and scared it away, said Tan Xiu. It's very timid, cautious, and highly intelligent. What should we do then? Did we wait in vain today? Asked Miao Wentong. If it were you, would you be willing to be scared away by something that suddenly appeared when you were about to face the temptation? Asked Tan Xiu. I won't. Miao Wentong shook his head. You won't, and I don't think it will either, said Tan Xiu. Just wait. I'm sure it will sneak back to investigate the situation. Half an hour later. The Siberian tiger circled around the bonfire. From time to time, it would get closer to the bonfire, wanting to see what kind of delicious food was in the fire. It's back. A satisfied smile appeared on Tan Xiu's face. His spiritual sense once again sensed the baneful creature's appearance. He found that the baneful creature was more cautious and its speed was much slower. It took several minutes for the baneful creature to appear in the bushes near the bonfire within a range of 200 meters. Its eyes flickered with blue light. Through the gaps in the bushes, it could clearly see the tiger in front of the bonfire and immediately shrunk its body. A few seconds later, it suddenly moved. It was like a hunter lurking in the dark, and the time seemed to be ripe at this moment. As it fiercely retreated, its vigorous body instantly pounced toward the Siberian tiger with a speed that was more than 10 times faster than Tan Xiu's full speed. In an instant. When it was only 3 or 4 meters away from the Siberian tiger, its furry feet suddenly thrust out 4 sharp claws and fiercely slashed the Siberian tiger's neck. Hiss! The Siberian tiger's fur was easily torn apart by the fierce creature's claws. Blood dyed the Siberian tiger's fur red in a very short period of time. The ferocious beast didn't stop moving. After its successful attack, it continued to brandish its sharp claws, tearing at the Siberian tiger's body. Roar! Bloody wounds appeared on the Manchurian tiger's body. The heart-wrenching pain made the Manchurian tiger roar. Although his movements were also very agile, compared to that ferocious creature, he was far too lacking. He fought back with all his might, but he couldn't even touch a single hair of that ferocious creature. It was time. Tan Xiu, who had been hiding in the bushes, sprang out in an instant. He slammed the jade stone in his hand into the eye of the array formation and injected his astral power into the jade stone. Instantly, the entire formation was activated. Miao Wentong also quickly sprang out of the bushes and stood next to Tan Xiu. He looked at the Siberian tiger and the ferocious creature that were fighting inside, but now were like headless flies. A pleasantly surprised expression appeared on his face as he quickly asked, Brother Tang, has the array been activated? Have they been trapped inside? That's right. A smile was revealed on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. They can't escape, so they'll fight each other again. The Siberian tiger is dead. Just look at its speed. Even if Brother Xiao and I join hands, we can only injure it lightly, but we'll be heavily injured. Brother Tang, don't look down on its small body. Its power is very terrifying. Even if Brother Xiao and I join hands, we won't be able to match it. It's so big. Tan Xiu was secretly startled. It's really big. That ferocious creature was just deliberately playing with the Siberian tiger. It didn't use its full strength at all. You'll see it later. Once it goes all out, that Siberian tiger can only hold on for 10 seconds. It's already very powerful. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and then said, Wait outside the array. I'll go inside to help that Siberian tiger. Only an injured ferocious creature is easier to deal with. After saying that, he stepped into the array and hid in the array's eye. He then grabbed dozens of lightning talismans from his pocket. Release. As he waved his hand and threw 2 lightning talismans, the yellow talismans engraved with runes exploded above the ferocious creature. They turned into finger-thick lightning bolts out of thin air and struck the beast's head. Puff! 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 The lightning bolts struck the ferocious creature's body, causing its body to constantly stiffen and its running speed to suddenly drop. Even its fur was charred and faintly bloodstains could be seen. Roar! The Siberian tiger fiercely pounced toward the ferocious creature. Its sharp claws finally swept the ferocious creature's body and directly swept it away, leaving several bloody wounds on its body. Tan Xiu secretly sneered. He kept waving the lightning talismans in his hand. Lightning bolts condensed and constantly struck the ferocious creature's body like a storm. Hiss! The ferocious creature was struck dozens of times in succession. Finally, it was on the verge of death and lay on the ground, unable to move. However, Tan Xiu didn't stop and continued to use the lightning talismans to attack again and again. Only when there were only 10 lightning talismans left in his hand did he stop. Outside the array, the corner of Miao Wentang's mouth twitched and a strange expression could be seen in his eyes. He had heard of the term rogue tactics before, but today was the first time he saw it. What Tan Xiu used was completely a rogue tactic. He somewhat felt sad for that ferocious creature. Such a powerful creature had fallen in Tan Xiu's hands. Brother Miao, your cultivation level is higher. Go into the array and see if the ferocious creature is really dead. Tan Xiu was more cautious than the ferocious creature. He decided to let Miao Wentang check it before dismissing the array. All right. Miao Wentang also had the mentality of, caution is the parent of safety. After entering the array, he keenly sensed that he was still in the forest, but there seemed to be a ripple-like wall of qi around him. It was easy to come in, but it would probably be difficult to go out. His speed was not fast, and he still held a sharp dagger in his hand. He came to the front of the ferocious creature that was badly mutilated and exuded a charred smell. The dagger in his hand did not hesitate to pierce its body. No movement. Miao Wentang raised his brows. He reached out to grab the ferocious creature and said aloud, "It's been attacked so miserably. It should be dead." Tang Xiu nodded in response. Just as he was about to remove the array, he suddenly saw that the Amur tiger had also been struck by lightning. His expression slightly moved and he immediately gave up the idea of removing the array immediately. He walked out of the array's core and came to Miao Wentang's front. Just as he was about to reach out to catch the baneful being, the closed eyes of the baneful being suddenly opened. Its sharp claws scratched Miao Wentang's wrist as its body instantly flashed to the side. Hiss! Miao Wentang covered his wrist and exclaimed in horror, "It's not dead yet. Is it a cockroach?" Tan Xiu was also secretly shocked. However, he had seen many tenacious ferocious beasts in the immortal world, so he did not lose his mind. Retreating to the array core at the fastest speed, Tan Xiu threw 5 lightning talismans again, which turned into lightning bolts that struck the ferocious creature. Hiss! The ferocious creature was struck on the ground, but it was still alive. Its blue eyes seemed to know who was attacking it. While withstanding the lightning strikes, it faced Tan Xiu, knelt on one knee and nodded repeatedly. Huh! Tan Xiu furrowed his brows and shouted in a deep voice, "Do you want to surrender?" The ferocious creature nodded even faster. Tan Xiu fell into silence for a moment. After the lightning strikes ended, he thought for a moment and slowly said, "I can spare your life since you can understand human language and want to surrender to me. However, we must sign a contract. I want to know whether you have cultivated an inner core or not." The ferocious creature struggled to stand up. Although its body was still shivering, it still opened its mouth and spat out a glass ball-sized bead that quietly floated in front of it. Tan Xiu left the array core and looked at the ferocious creature's inner core. He pinched the lightning talisman and approached it. When he was only 2 meters away from the ferocious creature, his left hand pinched dozens of finger seals and his star force fused into his fingertips before he pressed it on the inner core lightning fast. Hiss! The ferocious creature hissed and its body trembled violently for a while before it gradually calmed down. Its blue eyes were full of awe and fear as it looked at Tan Xiu at this moment. It could clearly feel that there was a magical connection between it and Tan Xiu. Swallow the inner core. Tan Xiu calmly said as he completely relaxed. The ferocious creature opened its mouth and swallowed the inner core. It instantly found that there was a dark red pattern on its inner core. This pattern was like a ticking time bomb. If Tan Xiu wanted to, he could make its inner core explode and scatter its soul with just a thought. Miao Wentong was shocked as he looked at Tan Xiu and the ferocious creature. His lips trembled a few times and he exclaimed, "What did you do, Brother Tang?" It. I know a technique to subdue spirit beasts. Since it's willing to surrender to me, I'll subdue it, said Tan Xiu calmly. Don't worry. It won't dare to hurt me because its inner core will explode with just a thought and it will die a miserable death. Is it really that magical? Miao Wentong was shocked. It's true. Tan Xiu nodded. Miao Wentong opened his mouth. Finally, he steeled his heart and said with a face full of hope, Brother Tang, can you teach me the technique to subdue spirit beasts? Don't worry, I won't take advantage of you for free. You can tell me your request and I'll find a way to satisfy it. Are you very rich? Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he slowly asked. I can take out a lot. Miao Wentong heavily nodded. I'll sell it to you for 1 billion. Tan Xiu said. If you can't take out that much, or if you want to find someone to share the cost, you two can jointly fund it if Xiao Mingjun wants to learn it. Chapter 172. Miao Wentong was overjoyed and said without hesitation, I believe Brother Xiao will be pleasantly surprised and agree. When we get back to Qingshan town, I will transfer the money to your account. Tan Xiu nodded his head in satisfaction and asked, do you still have the healing medicine that you concocted? Its injuries are very serious, so it needs to take some. Yes. Miao Wentong carefully took out a small porcelain bottle from his pocket. Tang Xiu took it and poured out a pill from the small porcelain bottle, stuffing it into the mouth of the baneful creature. Then, he returned the rest to Miao Wentong and said, I'll remove the array and let's go back. Let's enter the sinkhole tomorrow. Hopefully, there will be some gains. Miao Wentong smiled and said, being able to buy the incantation for subduing spirit beasts from you is already my biggest harvest. Regardless of whether there will be any harvest tomorrow, I will be satisfied. Tan Xiu smiled faintly and did not speak again. Miao Wentong was satisfied, but he was not. Although he had accidentally obtained a spirit beast and sold it for 1 billion yuan using the beast taming art, what he wanted the most now were precious ores. After returning to the encampment, Xiao Mingjun quickly came to greet him. He loudly asked from far away, how was it? Did you kill that? His neck seemed to be choked by a pair of invisible hands. His throat gurgled a few times, but he could no longer make a clear sound. This was because he clearly saw that the thing in Tan Xiu's arms was the ferocious creature that he hated to the core. Miao Wentong quickly went over and explained the cause and effect of the matter. Then, he looked at Xiao Mingjun's shocked expression with ridicule and finally said, how is it? Do you want the beast taming technique? If you want, each of us will pay 500 million. Xiao Mingjun's breathing became hurried as he said without hesitation, yes, only a fool wouldn't. I'll transfer the money to Brother Tang when we get back to Qingshan town. He knew very well how powerful this ferocious spirit beast was, and he was extremely envious that Tan Xiu was able to obtain one. It was worth noting that the ferocious spirit beast's combat power was extremely terrifying. Even with his current strength, he was no match for it. If he could obtain it, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. Miao Wentong said, now that the crisis has been resolved, we can relax and sleep. Tomorrow, we'll enter the natural maze array and the sinkhole to see what's inside. Tang Xiu stood beside them and was silent for a while before he said, "Actually, I suddenly don't want to go to that sky cavern you mentioned." "Why?" Miao Wentong asked. Tang Xiu forced a smile and said, "Before I subdued this spirit beast, I faintly felt a trace of threat. I originally thought that it was this spirit beast that brought it to me. And, I found that it was not." Said Tang. And said. And. By that. And, I felt. And Tang Wu. That's how I felt when I faced those 3 islands. Miao Wentong was surprised and asked, "Brother Tang, is there something wrong with your perception? Don't tell me you want to back out now." Tang said. And said. "Want to say, want. You wanted to Tang. Tang. What I want to say is that we must pay attention to our safety. Otherwise, we're likely to lose our lives there." Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen looked at each other and nodded cautiously. Tan Xiu gave them a very mysterious feeling. Moreover, they always got great harvests every time they were together with Tan Xiu. Therefore, they attached great importance to Tan Xiu's words and actions. The next morning, when the first ray of sunlight shone from the back of the mountain, Tan Xiu came out of the tent and saw 6 big men busy cooking. He secretly envied them. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen's men were the elites of the elites in today's society. Having them at their side would bring them a lot of convenience. Money. Tan Xiu was secretly helpless. Although he sold the beast-taming art for a sky-high price of 1 billion yuan, his company needed money. Kang Xia could not wait to chase him for money every day. Moreover, she still owed Chen Zhizhong 5 billion yuan. He had decided to give 500 million yuan to Kang Xia and 500 million yuan to Chen Zhizhong first. In the end, he didn't have much money left on him. Before he came to Qingshan town, he had a few million yuan. But after paying the fees of the 4 butler trainers and buying 5 to 6 jade materials from the jade store in Qingshan town, he had already spent it all. Star City Airport. Long Zhengyu was leaning on the front of his Hummer. He looked at Chu Yi coming out of the exit and waved his hand. Behind Chu Yi, 2 men each carried a large black suitcase, and their expressions were cold. "Young Master Chu, it's fine that you came to Star City, but why did you ask me to pick you up? Last night, I went to sleep in the wee hours of the morning. I almost fell asleep on the way to the airport today." Long Zhengyu yawned and spoke in a bad mood. Chu Yi forced a smile and said, "I'm also doing a hard job. If I don't pull you along, my heart will feel unbalanced. Do you see these 2 black suitcases? The things inside are very valuable." Long Zhengyu was surprised and said, "What things?" Chu Yi said, "Do you remember the matter that Tan Xiu asked us to do before? He gave me a list of hundreds of herbs, and I found dozens of them for him. But I didn't expect it to be so expensive. These 2 suitcases of herbs cost me nearly 200 million. What? Long Zhengyu didn't know much about the price of herbs. But for herbs worth nearly 200 million, how precious would it be? Chu Yi, when you were with Tan Xiu, didn't you ask him why he needed so many herbs? Chu Yi shook his head and said, "This is his private matter. It's not convenient for us to ask. In short, we'll help him as much as we can." Long Zhengyu said with a smile, "You're flattering him." Chu Yi rolled his eyes and scolded with a smile, "You're not flattering him, are you? If you're not, why did you give him the South Gate town's king villa?" Long Zhengyu repeatedly waved his hand and immediately changed the topic, "I'll call Tan Xiu and ask him where he is now. Let's send it to him directly." Chu Yi forced a smile and said, "I've called him, but his phone is off." Long Zhengyu hesitated and said, "How about we send it to South Gate town? If he's not at home, we'll give it to his housekeeper." Chu Yi was surprised and said, "Tan Xiu actually has a housekeeper?" Long Zhengyu said with a smile, "He has a lot of things that you can't even imagine." "All right, Let's talk slowly on the way to Southgate Town. At a certain upscale residential area in Star City, Su Shangguan was lying on the sofa with lifeless eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. His wife, Zhang Meiyun, was sitting on the sofa and crying in front of him. As for their children, Su Xiangfei and Sujinan, their faces were full of anger and they didn't say a word. The Shangguan real estate had gone bankrupt. It was like a shocking blow to the heavens that struck their whole family dumb. They all knew that Su Shangguan had fallen into the trap set by someone else. The purpose was to destroy the Shangguan real estate and make their family penniless. It's definitely Tan Xiu. He ordered that bastard surnamed Chen to do bad things to our company. Sujinan suddenly shouted in a flustered and exasperated manner. Zhang Meiyun stopped crying. A resentful expression appeared on her face as she angrily shouted, "Yes, it's that bastard who deserves to be stabbed 1,000 times. This old lady is going to find him and tear him apart." Su Shangguan raised his head and roared, "Shut up. Do you think this father doesn't know that Tan Xiu is the one who ordered Chen Zhizhong to do it? Where's the evidence? Can any of you produce the evidence?" Zhang Meiyun angrily glared at Su Shangguan and cursed, "What are you shouting at us for? If you have the guts, why don't you go find that fucking bastard Tan Xiu? You're such a good-for-nothing. I thought I could live a happy life with you, but look at the result. Now our family has no money and owes a lot of debts. If we can't collect 80 million yuan by tomorrow night, our whole family will be out of luck." Su Shangguan pointed at Zhang Meiyun and angrily cursed, "Bitch, you're actually blaming me. If it weren't for you instigating me to invest in that big project, would this father have risked everything and prepared to go all out? Now you think this father has no money. Get lost if you don't have money." Zhang Meiyun jumped up from the sofa. With one hand on her waist, she pointed at Su Shangguan and screamed, "You bastard. Now that you've lost money, you're blaming me. This old lady told you to go fucking, yet you still want to eat. I can't live like this anymore. This old lady can't stand you, you poor bastard. Divorce. We must divorce." Su Shangguan looked at Zhang Meiyun incredulously. He suddenly felt that his wife was so unfamiliar. Before the Shangguan real estate went bankrupt, Zhang Meiyun was obedient to him and coaxed him all day long. Now that he had no money, she turned her back on him. And, she still wants to divorce him. Ding dong, the doorbell rang. Sujinan angrily ran to the door and forcefully opened it. When she saw several policemen in uniform standing outside the door, the anger on her face froze. "You, who are you looking for?" Outside the door, a policeman asked in a deep voice, "Is this Zhang Meiyun's house?" "Yes." Sujinan hesitated. The policeman pushed Sujinan away. After entering the living room, he saw the angry Zhang Meiyun. He directly showed his police badge and said in a deep voice, "Zhang Meiyun, we received a report that you were involved in a hit-and-run case 2.5 years ago. Please come back with us to cooperate with the investigation." Zhang Meiyun was stunned, while Su Xiangfei and Sujinan were also dumbfounded. Su Shangguan, who was standing at the side, suddenly burst into laughter and said, "Zhang Meiyun, ah, Zhang Meiyun. I never thought that you would have such a day like this. Do you despise this father? Do you despise me again? A hit and run is a felony. You want to divorce me? Fine. Divorce me then. I'll go to the prison to see you later. Make me die a miserable death." Zhang Meiyun's complexion instantly turned pale as a sheet of paper. Fear flashed in her eyes as she rushed to Su Shangguan and cried bitterly, "I was wrong, honey. It's all my fault just now. I shouldn't have talked nonsense to you out of anger. Please don't blame me. Tell these policemen that it's all a misunderstanding. I didn't hit and run." Chapter 173. Fuck off. Su Shangguan looked at Zhang Meiyun's horrified expression and suddenly felt a strong sense of comfort. He finally saw Zhang Meiyun's true face. This bitch despised the poor and loved the rich. He had lived with her for more than 20 years, yet he only found out today. Tears streamed down Su Yenning's face. Never in her wildest dreams did she expect that a good family would end up like this. Looking at her father's grim expression and her mother's horrified expression, she cried out, "Dad, Mom just said those words out of anger. Don't let it get to your head because of anger. Quickly tell the police that it's all fake. My mom was wrongly accused. She didn't hit someone and fled. Tell them quickly." The policeman looked at Su Shangwen's family with a surprised expression. After a moment of silence, he solemnly said, "You don't need to say anything now. We wouldn't have come here if we didn't have conclusive evidence. Zhang Meiyun, come back with us." After that, he looked at Su Shangwen and lightly said, "If my guess is correct, you're Su Shangwen, the owner of Shangwen Real Estate. Your company has been declared bankrupt due to contract fraud, but the other party has accused you of fraud. The amount is as high as 80 million yuan. If you can't gather 80 million yuan by tomorrow night, I'm afraid that you'll be in jail. You're on your own now." Su Shangwen's body trembled and despair grew inside his heart. It's over. He knew he was done for. Let alone 80 million yuan, he couldn't even come up with 80,000 yuan. Furthermore, the news of his company's bankruptcy had spread in his circle of friends. In this society where monkeys scatter when the tree falls, and everyone pushes the wall when it's down, who would lend him money? Su Shangwen looked blankly at his wife being taken away by the police and the crying appearance of his children. All his strength seemed to have been sucked out in an instant as he slumped on the sofa. "Dad! Go find my cousin. He must have a way." Su Xiangfei suddenly stopped crying and hurriedly said, "Cousin?" Su Shangwen blankly looked at his son, not understanding who he was talking about. Su Xiangfei shouted, "Dad, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and find my cousin, Tan Xiu. He knew so many big bosses. He must have a solution. If he really did this, it's because he hates us for looking down on him. As long as we lower our heads and admit our mistakes, he'll definitely let it go." Tan Xiu. Su Shangwen smiled bitterly and looked at his son Su Xiangfei in disappointment. He suddenly had an urge to strangle his son. He found it funny because it was the first time he heard his son call Tang Xiu as cousin ever since he was a child. Sujinan also hurriedly said, "That's right. Dad, let's go find my cousin and my aunt. My aunt is soft, and she will definitely let my cousin save my mother. She might even help us borrow money to settle our debts." Su Shangwen was in despair a moment ago, but now, he didn't have a trace of anger. In his mind, he recalled the scenes of him getting along with his younger sister, Su Lingyun, and the mother and son. Suddenly, he realized how shameless he used to be, just like his shameless son and daughter in front of him. The sky wants to rain, and the mother wants to get married. Just let him be. Su Shangwen stiffly stood up and walked back to his room like a walking corpse. He locked the door from the inside and then walked to the bedside table. He opened the drawer and took out a handicraft knife. Then, he ruthlessly cut the artery on his wrist. His world began to blur. The last thought in his mind was that if he could do it all over again, he would never want to be a bastard again. Prime Forest Mountain Range. Halfway up the flat mountainside, Tan Xiu, Miao Wentong, and Xiao Mingjin had eaten breakfast and rushed toward their destination. A natural maze array was not a problem for Tan Xiu. When he was in the immortal world, he was not the slightest bit inferior to an array grandmaster. If his cultivation was still there, no matter how profound an array was, he would be able to do it with ease. It went smoothly. The trio passed through the natural maze array and appeared at the edge of the sky crater on the mountaintop. This sky crater was tens of meters deep and more than 10 meters wide. It looked like it was smashed by a meteorite from outer space. The trio looked down from above and could clearly see a few black holes at the bottom. Even if they looked up more than 10 meters, there seemed to be a hole there as well. "Go down," Tan Xiu said in a deep voice. Miao Wentong hurriedly stopped Tan Xiu and said with a wry smile, "We can't go down. Our people used to tie a rope around their waist and then slowly went down. But halfway down, a lot of vipers appeared, and there were even a few pythons as thick as a thigh. The second time we came here, we brought a lot of realgar powder, but it didn't work at all. The vipers here are very poisonous, and they seem to have undergone a mutation." Tan Xiu furrowed his brows. He looked at the spirit beast whose injury had healed a lot and asked in a deep voice, "Is it very dangerous down there, little beast?" Little beast. It was the name Tan Xiu gave to this spirit beast. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's question, it hurriedly nodded with fear in its eyes. Tan Xiu furrowed his brows and pondered for a moment. Then, he said, "You know the threat of these vipers, yet you're still willing to come here to explore. It means that you've already thought of a way. Tell me. How are we going down?" "Let's find another way," said Miao Wentong. "What do you mean?" asked Tan Xiu. "Since there are many passages down here, I believe there must be a cave entrance on this mountain. Let's look around and maybe we can find it. If we really can't find it, we'll go down from this sky crater. We have a barrel of gasoline in our bag, and we can tie it to a torch. Those vipers are not afraid of realgar powder, but they should be afraid of fire. That's a way." Tan Xiu nodded. For the whole morning, the trio had searched many places. They even searched the steep crevices of the mountain, but the result was disappointing as they couldn't find any cave entrance at all. They regrouped above the sky crater. Tan Xiu grabbed a thick rope and tied it to his waist. He then tied the other end to a tree next to the sky crater and said in a deep voice, "Get me a torch. I'll go down and try." Miao Wentong hesitated and said, "Tang Xiu, you must think about it clearly. It may be really dangerous down there. If those vipers are a threat to you, call us immediately and we'll pull you up." "All right," Tan Xiu replied. Holding the torch, Tan Xiu slowly went down the rope. Soon, he went down to a depth of about 20 meters and was only 20 meters away from the bottom of the sky crater. Hiss, hiss, the hissing sounds of the vipers were keenly transmitted to Tan Xiu's ears. Tan Xiu had already released his spiritual sense and found that there were a total of 5 caves in this sky crater. 4 of them were at the bottom, and the last one was about 10 meters below. The cave was connected to a dark passageway. It was very wide, and it wouldn't be a problem for several people to walk side by side. On the mountain walls of the sky crater, there were at least hundreds of vipers among the green vines. There were also hundreds of vipers and more than a dozen pythons in the 5 cave passages. This place is simply a snake cave. Tan Xiu sighed inwardly and tried to use the torch to approach a few vipers. To Tan Xiu's satisfaction, the vipers felt the high temperature and immediately dodged along the green vines. Very quickly, Tan Xiu landed at the bottom of the sky crater without any mishap. He took out the Woyang shovel from his waist and dug the ground for 30 minutes. He dug more than 2 meters deep, but he didn't find the shadow of a meteorite. His spiritual sense continued to spread along the 5 cave passages. It had already spread for nearly 200 meters, but he still didn't find anything. "Is there no precious ore here?" Tan Xiu stopped digging. He looked up at Miao Wentong and Xiaomingzhen, who were lying on the edge of the sky crater, and shouted, "I'll go along the passage and look inside. If there's any danger, I'll immediately come back. You're ready to provide support from above." "Brother Tang, I'll go down too," Xiaomingzhen shouted. Just like Tan Xiu, he took the torch and used the rope to go to the bottom of the sky crater. Subsequently, the two of them randomly found a cave passage and quickly went inside. With the assistance of Tan Xiu's spiritual sense, they saw a lot of poisonous creatures along the way, such as venomous snakes, scorpions, and centipedes. But these poisonous creatures were obviously afraid of fire, so they avoided them when they passed by. After moving forward unimpeded for 200 to 300 meters, Tan Xiu's footsteps suddenly stopped. "Brother Tang, what's wrong?" Tan Xiu's heartbeat sped up. A terrifying aura that made his hair stand erect came from the cave. His spiritual sense didn't find any dangerous creatures, but the aura was especially huge. Can you feel it? Xiaomingzhen heavily nodded and said, I can feel it. It's a very terrifying aura. What should we do? Do we still want to go inside? Tan Xiu gritted his teeth and said, let's go forward. No matter what kind of dangerous creature it is, we won't lose our lives here as long as we escape in time. Escape in time. Xiaomingzhen secretly smiled wryly inside. But he still respected Tan Xiu's intention and continued to move forward. After moving forward for another 100 meters, Tan Xiu's footsteps stopped again. An inconceivable expression was revealed on his handsome face. With the help of the searchlight and torch's light, Xiaomingzhen was keenly aware of the change in Tan Xiu's expression. He quickly asked, what's wrong? Tan Xiu's mouth twitched a few times. He suppressed the shock in his heart and said in a deep voice, I'll give you a choice. If the probability of death is 50%, but there's a heavenly treasure inside, do you choose to risk it or choose to retreat immediately? Xiaomingzhen pondered for a moment and seriously said, how can you catch a tiger cub without entering the tiger's den? I'm willing to take the risk. Tan Xiu said in a deep voice, such being the case, let's go back now. Go back. Xiaomingzhen was confused. Tan Xiu said in a deep voice, yes, let's go back. If we go in like this, we'll definitely die. Let's go back first and prepare some things. When we come back again, we'll definitely have a 50% chance of survival. Xiaomingzhen followed behind Tan Xiu and went back along the original path. At the same time, he asked, Brother Tang, did you find something inside this cave? Fire Qilin. Tan Xiu said in a deep voice. Impossible. Xiaomingzhen involuntarily exclaimed, how could there be a legendary mythological beast in this era? Are you sure you're not mistaken? Today's 4th chapter has exploded. I implore brothers and sisters to support me with your monthly votes and recommendation votes. I'm deeply grateful. _. Chapter 174. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, I'm absolutely not mistaken. That aura indicated that there's definitely a fire Qilin inside. Believe me, I'm 100% sure. He couldn't tell Xiaomingzhen about his powerful spiritual sense. He also couldn't tell him that he had observed the huge space at the end of the passage with his spiritual sense, as well as the sleeping fire Qilin inside. There were even several hundred square sky sandstones neatly placed near the fire Qilin, and each of them weighed 100 kilograms. He also saw a small bed, a wooden table, and a sparkling and translucent jade box on top of the table, as well as an ancient sword on the side of the table. He had encountered many opportunities in the immortal world. He had ventured into many immortals' caves and obtained a lot of treasures. He didn't expect that he would encounter this kind of immortals' cave on Earth. But he didn't know if it was left behind by a cultivator. As the duo returned to the top of the sky pit, Miao Wentong hurriedly asked, how was it? What harvest did you get inside the cave? Nothing for the time being. We need to prepare some things and return to Qingshan town first. Tan Xiu said. After we have prepared the things we need, the three of us will enter the cave together. Xiaomingzhen asked, Brother Tang, what should we prepare? Tan Xiu said, if the two of you are willing to take the risk with me, then listen to my arrangement. I can't guarantee that we'll come out alive, but I can guarantee that once we come out alive, we'll have a big harvest. All right. We'll listen to you. Xiaomingzhen and Miao Wentong said at the same time. Tan Xiu nodded and said, we'll think of a way to get a batch of explosives. The quantity doesn't need to be too big. If we can't find it, we'll buy a batch of fireworks. Also, we'll need more ropes. Also, we need to get a batch of boulders to quietly block the 4 cave entrances. Also, before we block the cave entrances, we must secretly arrange some traps inside. A plan emerged in Tan Xiu's mind, but there were too many things that needed to be prepared. Moreover, once the plan was implemented, it would be very difficult to finish it in a few days. However, he had to obtain the sky sandstone. He had obtained this kind of ore in the immortal world before. It was definitely an excellent material for refining weapons. This kind of ore was very rare, and even immortals would view it as a treasure. The next evening, when everyone returned to Qingshan town, Tan Xiu made a list of all the things they needed and handed it over to Miao Wentong and Miao Wentong's subordinates to buy them. Because some of the things on the list couldn't be bought in Qingshan town, they rushed to Cangbei city overnight. Taking advantage of this time, Tan Xiu and the others bought everything they could find in Qingshan town and waited for Miao Wentong and his men to return. Bang bang, in the hotel, someone knocked on the door of Tan Xiu's room. Tan Xiu opened the door and looked at Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen outside. He asked in doubt, "You haven't rested yet?" Miao Wentong smiled and said, "I'm not tired." "Why are you resting so early?" "We're going to the food stalls in town for a drink. Do you want to come?" Xiao Mingzhen also laughed and said, "I heard that the food stalls in the town use meat from wild animals on the mountain. This place is close to the mountain, so there are a lot of wild animals here. The taste is very good." Tan Xiu said with a smile, "All right, let's go together then." Suddenly, Tan Xiu recalled that his mobile phone had run out of battery yesterday. He charged it when he returned to Qingshan town, but it still hadn't been turned on until now. Therefore, he took his mobile and rushed to the food stalls in town with the two men. On the road, he turned on his mobile phone. Suddenly, the sound of missed calls and text messages kept ringing. Tan Xiu looked at it and found that aside from Chu Yi and Long Zhengyu's missed calls, there was also a call from his mother, Su Lingyun. As for the text messages, it was from Ouyang Lulu, asking what Tan Xiu was doing. Exploring. Tan Xiu first replied to Ouyang Lulu's text message and then dialed his mother's cell number. "Hello, is this Xiu?" Su Lingyun's urgent voice came from the phone. Tan Xiu said with a smile, "Mom, my mobile phone didn't work before." "What's the matter?" Su Lingyun quickly said, "Xiu, you said you're going to travel. Where are you going to travel? If you can you come back now? Mom has something urgent to talk to you." Tan Xiu was shaken inwardly as he asked with a deep voice, "Mom, don't be anxious. What exactly happened?" Su Lingyun's tone was particularly low as she said, "Your uncle's family had an accident. Your cousin and cousin came to me today, Tan Xiu interrupted Su Lingyun and said, "Mom, you don't need to say anything. I already know. Did Su Shangguan and Zhang Meiyun get arrested by the police? And what awaits them is many years in prison." Su Lingyun hurriedly asked, "Xiu, how did you know?" "Don't tell me." Tan Xiu said, "Yes, I asked someone to do it. Su Shangguan and Zhang Meiyun didn't want to live a good life and went to the hospital to humiliate you. I can't stand them. In my heart, you are my reverse scale. If anyone dares to disrespect you, I will not let them have a good life. I promised you that I would ensure Su Shangguan's safety, but I didn't promise you what kind of life he would have in the future." Su Lingyun was silent for a long while before she bitterly said, "Xiu, no matter how disheartened I am, he's still my blood brother." Sigh. Actually, it was Zhang Meiyun who was arrested. Su Shangguan committed suicide. Luckily, he was discovered in time and was rescued in the hospital. But it seems that he won't be caught for long. Suicide? Tan Xiu frowned and said, "He can't take the blow." "Do you want to die?" Su Lingyun said, "Yeah. Although he was rescued, the critical period is not over yet. Xiu, Mom is begging you. It's fine if Zhang Meiyun was arrested, but your uncle, can you help him? He has died once. Maybe he will turn over a new leaf and be a good man in the future." Tan Xiu fell into silence. Su Lingyun had raised him up, and this was the first time she asked him. He wanted to refuse and say that even if Su Shangguan had died once, he was still a dog that couldn't change his ways. But when the words were about to come out of his mouth, he swallowed them back into his stomach. After a long while, Tenshio forced a smile and said, "Mom, this is the last time. If he really changes, then it's the best. But if he can't change and is still a bastard, then don't stop me when the time comes." "All right." Su Lingyun hurriedly agreed. Tenshio sighed and said, "Mom, I'm now in Dongyuan province, and it will take a few days before I can go back. I'll make a call to arrange Su Shangwen's matter." Su Lingyun hesitated and said, "Xiao, I think you're hiding something from me. I remember you said that you'll tell me something after the college entrance test." Tenshio said, "I'll tell you everything when I go back." After ending the call, Tenshio rubbed his temples, feeling a bit of a headache. Afterward, he contacted Chen Zhizhong and asked him to let Su Shangwen go. In the following time, Tenshio called back Long Zhengyu and Chu Yi. After learning that Chu Yi had sent him a batch of precious medicinal herbs from the imperial capital, Tenshio was overjoyed. But then, he began to worry about money. Chu Yi didn't tell him how much the batch of medicinal herbs cost, but Long Zhengyu told him that the total value of those herbs was nearly 200 million. Money. Tenshio forced a smile as he put away his mobile. Unknowingly, he unexpectedly followed Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin to the food stall, while the two of them went to order food. Secretly shaking his head, Tenshio casually found an outdoor table and sat down. This father has really decided to turn over a new leaf. Motherfucker. How can you not wet your shoes if you often stand by the river? This sentence severely taught him a lesson. After we finish drinking today, I'll go to the big city. If I really can't stay outside, this father will go back home and continue to brew wine. A loud and clear voice came from more than 10 meters away. Tenshio felt that the voice was somewhat familiar. Looking at the source of the voice, he recognized the person who spoke. It was Scarblade Chang, who had been taught a lesson by him. The people at their table didn't have the dozens of big men they met last time. There were 7 or 8 of them. All of them were middle-aged men, but they were also new faces. "Big Brother Chang, we've already advised you not to do that kind of thing again. After all, it's not the time when you can eat your fill anymore. If something really happens to you, think about sister-in-law and your child. Come, for you to turn over a new leaf, us brothers toast to you." Right. Big Brother Chang is smart and righteous. Even if you're doing a serious business, you'll still prosper in the future. We toast you. Big Brother Chang, if you can't do well outside, then come back and brew wine. We brothers know that your wine brewing level is very high. If worse comes to worst, I'll find a second job. If the wine you brew doesn't sell well, then I'll go to the city a few times to help you sell it. Scarblade Chang looked at these brothers who grew up with him. His face was moved as he raised his glass and spoke with a heroic spirit, "You're all my good brothers. Chang Zi doesn't need to say thank you. Come, my heart is in the wine. Cheers." At the side, a trace of a smile appeared on Tenshio's face. A prodigal son turned over a new leaf. Scarblade Chang's nature was not bad. Moreover, he was able to win over a group of brothers and friends. This kind of person was quite capable. If he could turn over a new leaf, he believed that he would definitely have some achievements in the future. Brewing wine. That would be a good way to make a living. Tenshio nodded with a smile. Suddenly, his complexion turned sluggish as an idea emerged in his mind. Wasn't he also preparing to brew wine after returning to Star City? If Scarblade Chang could brew wine, why not take him back and ask him to help him brew it? If he could also open a wine shop. As long as he brewed the wine according to his own recipe, he would absolutely be able to brew good wine. When the time came, he wouldn't need to worry about the sales. Moreover, the investment for a wine shop would not cost much money. He was fully capable of starting one. If Scarblade Chang was not suitable to manage it, then it would be the same to Kang Xia. As Tenshio thought up to here, he looked at Scarblade Chang again. "Brother Tang, the food and wine have been ordered. This food stall is really good. There are a lot of good things here. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjun came back with a cheerful expression as they sat beside Tan Xiu. Chapter 175. Tan Xiu didn't care much about exotic delicacies. He had two ideas at the moment. The first was to snatch the food from the Qilin's mouth and take out the sky gravel from the cave. Even if he could only take out a few pieces, it would be enough for him to use for a long time. The second was to make money. The newly increased debt of nearly 200 million yuan made his determination to make money even firmer. I've received your money. May I ask if you still have money? Looking at the smiling duo, Tang Xiu once again paid attention to the two of them. He had a lot of good things, which were 10,000 times better than the beast-taming art. He decided that as long as Xiao Mingjun and Miao Wentong could afford it, he would sell them some things. At the very least, he had to pay off the current debt first. Miao Wentong was confused. I still have some. Brother Tang, are you really short of money? Yes, very powerful. Tan Xiu said. Miao Wentong said with a smile, how much do you need? As long as we have it, you can use it first. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, if you have a lot of money, I intend to make another deal with you. But, the premise is that you have enough money. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjun looked at each other and said, it's not a problem to take out 1.5 billion. 1 billion. Tan Xiu revealed a smile and said, I'll eat a loss and sell you an immortal cultivation technique for 2.5 billion. How about it? Immortal cultivation technique? Miao Wentong revealed a difficult expression as he forced a smile and said, Brother Tang, if it's something else, perhaps we'd be happy to accept it, such as the beast-taming art. But we're all cultivators, and we have our own cultivation technique. Even if you sell us a good cultivation technique, we can't practice it again, right? Xiao Mingjun also nodded and said, it's not impossible to practice two cultivation techniques at the same time. However, I feel that focusing on one type of cultivation technique is the best choice. After all, our energy is limited. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, listen carefully. I'm not talking about a Taoist cultivation technique, but an immortal cultivation technique. Miao Wentong couldn't help laughing and said, Brother Tang, what nonsense are you talking about? How could there be any immortal cultivation method in this world? Tan Xiu turned around and called for the stall's waiter. He asked for a pen and paper, and then began to write. More than 10 minutes later, he had written down a set of ordinary casual cultivation techniques, as well as detailed notes on cultivation. After handing it to Miao Wentong, he indifferently said, I have nothing to say if you think it's not worth 2.5 billion after you read this cultivation technique. Miao Wentong half believed and half doubted it, while Xiao Mingjun also came forward. Both of them then looked at the immortal cultivation technique written by Tan Xiu in a serious manner. Half a minute later, both of them were surprised. 1 minute later. Both of them looked a little shocked. 2 minutes later. The two of them had already subconsciously stood up. Their bodies were trembling as they stared at the cultivation technique in their hands. 5 minutes later. The two of them turned their heads with difficulty and looked at Tan Xiu in shock, unable to speak for a long time. Are you really willing to sell it to us for 2.5 billion? Miao Wentong finally asked with a trembling voice. Yes. Tan Xiu calmly nodded. Miao Wentong slapped the table and loudly shouted, we'll buy it. 2.5 billion. Even if we have to sell everything we have, we'll transfer the money to your account within a few days. Xiao Mingjun also loudly said, no need for a few days. I'll contact the company's general manager right now and ask him to transfer the money to your account as fast as possible. Also, Brother Miao and I will split the money equally. More than 10 meters away, Scarblade Chang's table was drinking vigorously when they suddenly heard Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjun's shouts, causing them to immediately jump in fright. A big man with a flushed face shouted with dissatisfaction, Hey, you from the next table, don't freak out. You almost scared me to the point of pissing my pants. This father is a coward. If you scared me, you'll get yourself into trouble. Another man also loudly said, yeah, our heart's endurance is not strong. Don't scare us. 5 billion. Don't even look at the sky when you're bragging. Aren't you afraid of blowing a ghost? If you have 5 billion, why did you come to this place where even birds don't shit? Why did you come here to eat at a food stall? Scarblade Chang turned his head and angrily glared at Xiao Mingzhen and Miao Wentong. However, when his eyes inadvertently swept over Tan Xiu's smiling face, his eyes suddenly froze. In an instant, Scarblade Chang jumped from his chair and fiercely slapped the heads of the two brothers who just spoke. He then cursed, just drink your wine. Why are you making a ruckus? What's wrong with you two brothers talking a bit louder? Let me see if I can scare you to death. The two big men were dumbfounded. They didn't understand what Scarblade Chang meant. Scarblade Chang no longer paid attention to them. Instead, he trotted to the food stall's owner and asked for 2 bottles of the most expensive liquor. He held it with his uninjured hand and came to Tan Xiu with an obsequious smile. He bowed and nodded, brother, I'm really sorry. These brothers of mine drank a bit too much. Please be magnanimous and don't lower yourself to their level. These 2 bottles of liquor are my apology on their behalf. I hope you can drink to your heart's content. One of Scarblade Chang's brothers was dumbfounded as he looked at Scarblade Chang's actions. After he sobered up from his sluggishness, he forced a smile and called out, Brother Chang, isn't your speed of turning over a new leaf a bit too fast? You used to be a hero, but how come you've turned into a coward now? Why are you apologizing to them? They should be the ones coming to our table to apologize and offer a toast. Shut up. Scarblade Chang raised his right wrist that had just been treated and shouted angrily. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen were also confused by Scarblade Chang. They knew that they had lost control of themselves a moment ago, so they shouted a bit loud. But how could this big man with a scar on his face come over and apologize as if he was trying to curry favor with them? The expression in his eyes was as if he had seen something terrible. Tan Xiu lightly said, Forget it. It's no big deal. I'm very satisfied with your performance. Upon hearing it, Scarblade Chang was immediately overjoyed. He repeatedly nodded and said, Thank you for your magnanimity, brother. These brothers of mine are rough people. How about I call them over to toast you a few cups? Although he said so, he couldn't wait to immediately run away in his heart. He had seen how terrifying Tan Xiu was. In his heart, Tan Xiu was absolutely a ruthless and merciless fiend. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, They don't need to come over to toast. But I have something to discuss with you in the evening party. After you leave, wait for me for a while. I have something to tell you. What? Scarblade Chang was dumbfounded. He squeezed out a trace of a smile, but it was uglier than crying. He wanted to run away, but he didn't dare to disobey Tan Xiu. He could only nod helplessly. As Scarblade Chang returned to their table, one of the big men asked with a puzzled expression, Brother Chang, who's that kid? Why do you look like you've seen a ghost when you see him? Do you need to be trembling with fear? Scarblade Chang gulped down his saliva. He turned his head and glanced at Tan Xiu. After finding that Tan Xiu didn't look at him, he felt a bit relieved. He poked his head out and shouted in a low voice, All of you, shut up. Do you see my broken wrist? It's that guy who did it. There were more than a dozen of us at that time, and we were all beaten down by him in a few moves. I pointed a gun at him, and it was easily taken away by him. Do you think that just you people would be his opponent? Hiss, the other big men at the table sucked in a mouthful of cold air one after another. They had heard the story from Scarblade Chang before. But they didn't expect that they would actually encounter that ruthless and merciless person here, who even robbed them. Cold sweat slowly appeared on the foreheads of the two big men who had just opened their mouths to stir up trouble. They looked at Scarblade Chang with grateful eyes. I've seen his two friends. They're staying in the hotel in our town. Also, I'll tell you that they have a lot of bodyguards around them. But... A big man wanted to say something but hesitated. But what? Scarblade Chang asked with a confused expression. The big man said, I don't know where these people came from, but they're definitely not ordinary people. Those two people, and their bodyguards seemed to have entered the prime forest mountain range. Later, they had a lot of casualties. What I said is true. It's death and serious injuries. My wife works as a waitress in that hotel. You all know that my wife saw with her own eyes that the dead people were all taken away by off-road vehicles. The seriously injured ones didn't leave. What's miraculous is that in just 2 or 3 days, their injuries were more or less healed. So strange. Scarblade Chang and the others were stunned. Listening to this matter, it was absolutely too strange. But they secretly rejoiced that they didn't really infuriate Tang Xiu's group. An hour later, Tang Xiu trio had eaten and drank to their heart's content. Before they could pay the bill, the food stall's owner told the trio that their bill had been paid by Scarblade Chang. Tang Xiu looked at Scarblade Chang, who was waiting alone at another table. He then said to the Miao Wentong duo, you go back first. I have some private matters to deal with. All right. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjun complied and strolled back to the hotel. Tang Xiu's ability was very great, so they didn't worry that Tang Xiu would have an accident. Inside the food stall, Tang Xiu waved to Scarblade Chang. After he came over, he pointed to the chair opposite him and said with a smile, have a seat. Scarblade Chang sat down with an obsequious smile, but he felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles. He asked, brother, you asked me to stay. Is there something you need? Tang Xiu said, I'm very satisfied with your performance today. You can turn over a new leaf, which shows that you've listened to my words. So, I intend to give you a chance. Scarblade Chang was confused, chance? What chance? Tang Xiu asked, I heard you can brew wine. And your skill is good? Scarblade Chang quickly said, it's my ancestral wine-making skill. Before I was 25, I followed my father to brew wine. After he passed away, I gave up my family's winery. All day long, I mixed with a group of local ruffians. Later, I mixed with a bit of fame and became a big brother, so I got carried away. If it weren't for you teaching me a lesson, I'm afraid I would have made mistakes again and again, causing big troubles in the future. Chapter 176. Tang Xiu calmly looked at the forced smile on Scarblade Chang's face. He was very satisfied inwardly as he nodded and said, I heard that you're married and have a wife and a child. Scarblade Chang said, I've been married for 8 or 9 years. My child is already in elementary school. In order to give him a good education, I sent him to a key primary school in the city. My wife also went there to take care of him. Tang Xiu said with a smile, since your wife and child have been properly settled, do you want to have a stable and promising career? If you need, I can give you some directions. Scarblade Chang was surprised, what directions? Tang Xiu said with a smile, I have an ancient wine-making recipe. If you can brew the wine I need according to the requirements, I can build a winery and let you manage it. I can build a winery and let you manage it. Scarblade Chang curiously said, how much are you going to invest to build a winery? Tang Xiu said with a smile, I can't say for sure. I can't say for sure, said Tang Xiu with a smile. However, I need to set up a winery. At the very least, it has to be a large-scale winery. As long as the production can keep up, there won't be a problem with sales. In addition, you can be the factory director. I will put the winery under the name of my company. Tang Xiu said, the Magnificent Tang Corporation. Scarblade Chang asked again, your company is? Scarblade Chang had never heard of this name, so he nodded and said, can you give me some time to think about it? After all, this is a big deal. Tan Xiu said, leave my cell number. I'll be here for a few days. Before I leave, I hope you can give me an answer. That's right, if you decide to work for me, you must return to Star City with me. The magnificent Tang Corporation is in Star City, so I'm going to build the winery there. All right. Scarblade Chang nodded. The next day at noon, Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen's men bought the things they needed from Cangbei City and returned to Qingshan Town. They didn't get explosives, but they got a lot of fireworks. A group of 9 people. Once again entering the prime forest mountains. This time, Tan Xiu didn't let Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen's men stay halfway up the mountain. Instead, he brought them to the sky cavern and asked them to help him bring the boulders and all the things that had been prepared down with ropes. 2 whole days. Under Tan Xiu's arrangement, everything was ready. While standing in the sky cavern, Miao Wentong asked, everything is ready now, Brother Tang. Our people have also left according to your order. What should we do next? Wait, said Tan Xiu. Wait? Miao Wentong asked in confusion. Tan Xiu said, after a few days, I can feel the changes in your and Xiao Mingzhen's aura, indicating that you have begun to cultivate the immortal cultivation technique I sold to you. However, your foundation is too weak. If you want to completely raise the quality of your true essence by a level, I'm afraid it will take a lot of time. From now until tomorrow morning, all we have to do is rest and restore ourselves to peak condition. Tomorrow, whether we live or die will depend on ourselves. Understood. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen nodded at the same time. The next day. At dawn, Tan Xiu's group of 3 once again appeared at the bottom of the sky cavern. They wore helmets with searchlights and held torches in their hands. 3 ropes were put down from the top of the sky cavern. They were prepared to use them to escape. On their waists, there was a nylon rope bag. Miao Wentong, 2 minutes after we go in, you ignite the gunpowder fuse. The sound of the fireworks will attract the fire qilin inside. When the time comes, we can take the opportunity to get the things inside. Remember, your responsibility is to be responsible for supporting us. Later, you will prepare a big bamboo basket and tie it to the rope. When we ask you to pull it, you will pull it up. Tan Xiu instructed. Miao Wentong said, don't worry. I'll remember your arrangement in my heart. Tan Xiu and Xiao Mingzhen looked at each other. Holding the torches, they walked toward the reserved cave passage. 2 minutes later, they clearly heard the sound of fireworks exploding. It's now. Tan Xiu, who had been observing the fire qilin inside with his divine sense, found that the fire qilin rushed toward the source of the sound. His and Xiao Mingzhen's speed instantly erupted. Quickly grab the things. After Tang Xiu rushed into the spacious cave, he immediately ran to the wooden table, grabbed the jade box and the ancient sword on it, and stuffed them into the bag he had prepared. Then, he sprinted to the sky sandstones and easily stuffed the 2 pieces of sky sandstones weighing 50 kilograms into the bag. His strength was great, but Xiao Mingzhen's strength was even greater than his. After grabbing these things, Tan Xiu didn't hesitate. His figure was as fast as lightning as he dashed toward the passage they came from. Xiao Mingzhen's movement was also very fast. He quickly put the 3 sky sandstones into the nylon rope bag. He also grabbed one in his hand and followed behind Tan Xiu, rushing toward the passage they came from. From beginning to end, the 2 of them didn't take more than 10 seconds. When they sprinted to the bottom of the sinkhole, Tan Xiu immediately put the nylon rope bag into the big bamboo basket tied with a rope. Then, he took the 100-pound sky sandstone from Xiao Mingzhen's hand and clamped it under his armpit. Then, he began to climb up along the rope. Xiao Mingzhen's movement was also very fast. He wrapped the nylon rope bag around his hand and quickly climbed up the sinkhole. They were racing against time, fighting for their lives against the god of death. Just as they climbed to the top of the sinkhole, Miao Wentong pulled up the big bamboo basket. At this moment, a deafening roar came from the hole at the bottom of the sinkhole. Run! Run with all your strength! As long as we escape from the natural maze, we will be safe. Tan Xiao held the sky sandstone and ran with all his strength. Xiao! 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 The three figures were like ghosts in the mountain forest. Roar! Just as Tan Xiao and the other two rushed into the maze, a monstrous heatwave surged from behind. That even louder roar shook the three people's eardrums and made them feel a dull pain. While Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjun were running, they turned their heads and glanced behind them. Suddenly, the two of them were shocked. They clearly saw a 4 to 5 meter tall fire qilin, whose whole body was burning with flames, jumping out of the sinkhole. Run! The two of them were scared out of their wits. Their potential was stimulated in that instant. Their speed increased, and they were nearly twice as fast as Tan Xiao. After they sprinted to Tan Xiao's side, the two of them tacitly used their empty hands to grab both sides of Tan Xiao's shoulders. Fuck! The moment the three of them were about to rush out of the natural maze, a burning sensation pounced on their back. In a flash, the clothes on their back were burned to ashes, and the skin on their back was burnt to a pulp. Run! 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 At this moment, Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjun only had this thought in their minds. They wished they could grow a few more legs and run away as fast as possible. Regarding Tan Xiao's words that they would be safe as long as they could escape the natural maze, they had completely forgotten about it. Only after they sprinted to the foot of the mountain did they sober up from the thought of running away. They stopped and turned their heads to look at the back. They found that the fire qilin didn't chase after them. Only then did their hearts, which were hanging high in the air, calm down. Phew! I almost died. The two of them put down Tan Xiao. Miao Wentong's complexion was pale as he said with a sigh. Tan Xiao looked at the two of them with a grateful expression and said, "Thank you for saving me. If you didn't take me to run away, I'm afraid I would have died in the hands of that fire qilin." Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjun looked at each other and suddenly burst into laughter. They had just survived a disaster. It made them especially excited. They even felt that after this battle, their relationship with Tan Xiao had become closer. Miao Wentong said with a smile, "Brother Tang, if it weren't for your arrangement, I'm afraid we wouldn't have gotten anything from inside. Maybe we would have lost our lives inside. So, we don't need to thank each other. That fire qilin's flame is really fucking powerful. My back hurts too much." Xiao Mingjun also said with a smile, "It's very painful, but I think it's worth it. Let's hurry up and leave this place. In case that fire qilin rushes out of the maze and chases after us, we won't be able to escape." At this moment, Tan Xiao also felt the pain on his back. But he didn't care about it and said with a smile, "That fire qilin can't come out. This natural maze is 10 times more powerful than the maze arranged by immortal cultivators. If it could come out, it would have come out long ago. Anyways, let's leave this place early and go back to divide the treasures. Let's go." The three of them no longer stayed and rushed toward Qingshan town at lightning speed. After a day of traversing the mountains and ridges, the three of them were exhausted, but they still rushed back to Qingshan town in the evening. Their speed was twice faster than when they left. In the hotel, Tan Xiao happily took a bath and then changed into clean clothes. Just as he walked out of the door, he saw Xiao Mingjun also coming out of his room. The two of them looked at each other and smiled as they knocked on Miao Wentong's door. "Quick, come in." Miao Wentong opened the door and said while wiping his wet hair with a towel. After the two of them entered, their gazes fell on the 2 nylon bags in the corner, as well as the sky sandstone. Tan Xiao walked over and took out the sky sandstones from the 2 bags. There were a total of 6 sky sandstones, an ancient sword, and a sparkling and translucent jade box. The sky sandstones were easy to divide, with 3 people each getting 2. As for the ancient sword, Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjun were not interested, so their gazes were focused on the jade box. Only Tan Xiao picked up the ancient sword and looked at it. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. It was not an immortal sword. But it was a flying sword used by a cultivator. Although he did not know why this flying sword was left in the cave, Tan Xiu still accepted it with a smile. He was confident that after his re-refining, he could definitely refine a top-grade flying sword. Perhaps in the immortal world, a top-grade flying sword was considered as trash. But in this world, it was a rare treasure. Finally, Tan Xiu's wooden pipe fell on top of the sparkling and translucent jade box. This jade box was 30 centimeters long, 15 centimeters wide, and 10 centimeters high. There was a beautifully carved pattern on it. "Open it and take a look," Miao Wentong whispered. Chapter 177. The crystal-clear jade box's lid was opened. A fragrant aroma overflowed and filled the hotel room. Suddenly, Tan Xiu, Miao Wentong, and Xiao Mingzhen's spirit shook. Their whole body felt comfortable and their pores relaxed. 2 scarlet pills were quietly lying inside the jade box. The rich medicinal fragrance came from these 2 pills. This is... Miao Wentong turned to look at Tan Xiu. In his opinion, Tan Xiu was too mysterious. He even had an immortal cultivation technique and could casually sell the beast-taming art. He was definitely knowledgeable. What a pity. This time, he was disappointed. Tan Xiu slightly frowned. He shook his head and said, "I've seen thousands of pills, but I can't recognize the name of this pill and its effect." Miao Wentong hesitated. "We don't know what this pill is, and we don't even know its medicinal effect. How can we dare to take it?" Xiao Mingzhen also nodded and said, "Yeah. Just by smelling the medicinal fragrance of this pill, we know that it's not an ordinary pill. But we don't know its medicinal effect. If we take it rashly, there may be some side effects. If by any chance it's harmful to us, then the loss outweighs the gain." Tan Xiu said, "Give me a knife." Miao Wentong was confused. "What do you want a knife for?" Tan Xiu said, "To taste the medicine." "Taste the medicine?" Miao Wentong stared blankly for a moment before he immediately grabbed a sharp knife. Tan Xiu's fine control of his strength was extremely precise. He used the tip of the knife to pick up a small piece of the pill and rolled the tip of his tongue into his mouth. After slowly closing his eyes, he silently tasted the composition of the pill and its medicinal effect. "How is it? What kind of medicinal effect is it?" Miao Wentong saw Tan Xiu open his eyes and hurriedly asked. Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, "I've taken a kind of pill called the Myriad Beasts pill. It's a kind of immortal pill that has been refined by collecting thousands of kinds of spirit beasts' blood essence and matching them with thousands of medicinal herbs for 99 years. Its effect is to enhance the cultivator's cultivation, causing their cultivation to soar. Although the elixirs in this jade box are worlds apart from the 10,000 beasts pill, they are still extremely effective for your cultivation. Blood essence of 10,000 types of spirit beasts. 10,000 kinds of medicinal herbs. 81 years. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen looked at Tan Xiu with a strange expression. They rolled their eyes at Tan Xiu in their hearts. They had seen people who could brag, but they had never seen someone who could brag to such an extent. They were all cultivators, and as their cultivation increased, their lifespan would also increase. However, they had never heard of anyone who could concoct pills for a full 81 years. The Arabian Nights. Miao Wentong asked, "Can it really increase our cultivation?" "Really?" Tan Xiu answered affirmatively. Xiao Mingzhen asked, "No side effects?" Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment before slowly saying, "For you, it might be a little." Xiao Mingzhen quickly asked, "What side effects?" A smile was revealed on Tan Xiu's face as he said with a faint smile, "With your current cultivation, if you dare to take it directly, it's very likely that your body will explode due to the huge medicinal efficacy and you will die." "What?" Both of them were dumbfounded. Their current cultivation had reached a very high level, yet they could explode and die just by taking this pill. Just how strong was the medicinal power contained in this pill? Miao Wentong gulped down his saliva and asked, Brother Tang, when do you think it's appropriate for us to take it? Tan Xiu said, at least, you have to wait until your cultivation has increased by 2 levels. Both of them secretly smiled wryly. At their current level, it would be very difficult for them to increase their cultivation by 1 level. It might take several years, or even decades. If they wanted to take this pill, they would need to increase their cultivation by at least 2 levels. How long would they have to wait? Tang Xiu said, these 2 medicinal pills, you two can share them. It has no effect on me. However, this jade box is mine. I'll use it to store the pills later. That's not good, right? Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjun looked at each other with a bit of hesitation. Tan Xiu said, I got that ancient sword, so it can be considered as a good harvest. Moreover, even if I get a pill, I don't know when I'll be able to take it. Both of them thought about it and felt that Tan Xiu's words were reasonable. With their current cultivation, if they wanted to take this pill, they would need to increase their cultivation by 2 levels. And with Tan Xiu's level, it would probably take several decades. However, this pill was, after all, a treasure. A pill that could make their bodies explode and die should be regarded as a miraculous panacea, right? A man of temperament is neither selfish nor greedy. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjun secretly sighed in their hearts. Even though Tan Xiu was half their age, they were still full of respect for Tan Xiu from the bottom of their hearts. Xiao Mingjun solemnly picked up the pill that Tan Xiu had just dug out and said, Brother Tang, since you said so, we won't be unreasonable. If you need anything in the future, don't hesitate to ask us. I and old Miao owe you a favor. Miao Wentong also nodded and said, that's right. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have been able to get this miraculous panacea. We'll remember this favor. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, we're cooperating. This is just a matter of distribution. It's not a favor. However, you must give me the money as soon as possible. I'm going to return to Star City tomorrow. I need the money for a lot of things. Upon hearing this, both of them grabbed their phones at the same time. The previous 1 billion, plus the later 1.5 billion, were transferred quickly. After making the arrangements, they told Tan Xiu that the money would be transferred to his account before tomorrow evening. Brother Tang, what kind of material are these ores that we snatched from the sky cavern? I have some knowledge about precious ores, but I've never seen this kind of ore. Looking at the uniform and neat cut, it shouldn't be a good thing, right? Xiao Mingjun asked as his eyes shifted to the sky sandstone after receiving the medicinal pills. Tan Xiu said, remember my words today. These ores are much more precious than the medicinal pills you've obtained. In case the news of you obtaining the sky sandstone is leaked out, those powerful cultivators who know about the sky sandstone will be aware of it. I'm afraid that they will be envious and will most likely snatch it. Xiao Mingjun exclaimed, it's more precious than the medicinal pills. How is this possible? It's just an ore. At most, it can only be used to refine some weapons. It won't be of much benefit to us, right? Tan Xiu said lightly, if this ore falls into the hands of a supreme powerhouse, can it be used to forge a divine tool? Xiao Mingjun's pupils shrunk and Miao Wentong couldn't help but shiver. Divine tool. This ore can be used to forge a divine tool. They knew the classification of weapons. From the lowest common weapons to magic tools that could cut iron like mud, spiritual tools that had spirituality, treasured tools that could be absorbed into the body, and the legendary immortal tools used by the immortals. After that, there were the divine tools used by the deities. If they could have a treasured tool, they would probably wake up laughing even in their dreams, let alone a divine tool used by the deities. Brother Tang, you seem to know a lot. Xiao Mingjun hesitated for a moment before he spoke in a very euphemistic manner. Tan Xiu knew that he had revealed too many things to the two of them, causing them to be curious about his identity. However, his return from the immortal world was his biggest secret. Except for Gu Xiaoxue and Ji Qimei, he couldn't let anyone else know about it. Read 10,000 books and travel 10,000 miles. If you have more time in the future, you can read more records in ancient books. Maybe it will bring benefits to your future cultivation. Lies. Sometimes, it was not a killing weapon, but a means of self-protection. Tan Xiu returned to his room with the things assigned to him. He took out his mobile and looked at it. Apart from Ouyang Lulu's dozens of text messages, there were no missed calls. He was somewhat disappointed. And also somewhat helpless. He wanted to wait for Scarblade Chang's call because he needed someone to help him brew wine. The bigger the business, the more serious the lack of money became. In this world of human relations, the wine market made him see the huge profits that existed. If he could build a large winery, he would definitely be able to make a lot of money. He firmly believed that good wine need not be afraid of the deep alley. I'm short of talents. Tan Xiu rubbed his temples. He was not sleepy at all as he came to the window and looked at the dark night outside. His eyesight was good, even the darkness couldn't block his vision. He clearly saw several stray cats on the street, wandering in front of the trash can not far away. Huh! Suddenly, a list emerged in his mind. It was the list given by Yuan Zhengxian, which recorded the information about the retired Special Forces soldiers. It seems that there is a person named Wang Ming who lives in Sangbei City. Tan Xiu blinked his eyes, and his heart instantly made a decision. He wanted to meet this Wang Ming. If his character was good, he would use him. The next morning, the sky had just turned bright. Tan Xiu carried his luggage and came to the hotel's entrance. Looking at Xiao Mingjin and Miao Wentang waiting outside, he asked, "Are you also leaving today?" Miao Wentang's mood was not good. He nodded and said, "Yes. Our purpose of coming here has been achieved, so it's time to go home. Although the harvest this time is great, the loss is also very heavy. After we go back, arrange the families of the victims." Tan Xiu said, "Yes, give them some compensation and take care of them later." Miao Wentang said, "Don't worry. We're well aware of it. Let's go. In any case, you're going to Sangbei City, so I'll take you there." "All right." Tan Xiu nodded and looked at Miao Wentang's men opening the trunk of an off-road vehicle. He then put his bulging travel bag into the trunk. "Wait a minute." Scarblade Chang's voice came from the corner not far away. Tan Xiu looked toward the source of the voice and found Scarblade Chang smoking a cigarette. He threw the cigarette butt on the ground and fiercely stamped it with his foot as he strode toward them. There were more than a dozen cigarette butts at the place where he just stood. It was obvious that he had stayed there for a long time. "Have you thought about it?" Tan Xiu calmly asked. Scarblade Chang said, "I've thought about it. But I want to know about my salary." Tan Xiu pondered for a moment before he slowly said, 10% shares, plus an annual salary of 1 million yuan. But the premise is that you not only become the factory director, but also a technician. Today's 4th chapter has exploded. I'm crying for a monthly vote. Perhaps Quiet Night's psychological quality is really bad. Today, she was really disgusted by the bad reviews in the book review section. People with 0 fans came to the book review section to hurl abuse at her, and they didn't even allow people to delete their reviews. What kind of logic is this? It's like stealing someone's things and then finding the original owner to scold the quality of the things. This quality is really high. Anyway, I'm going to sleep. Chapter 178. Scarblade Chang exclaimed, "An annual salary of 1 million? Not including the 10% of the shares. How much money do you want to invest?" "I don't have much money," said Tan Xiu. "I won't invest much in the early stage." Miao Wentang at the side said with a confused expression, "Brother Tang, we gave you 1 billion, and we're about to transfer 1.5 billion to your account. How can you say that you don't have much money? Listening to your conversation, it seems that you want to do business." "What for?" Tan Xiu calmly said, "I want to brew wine and build a winery." Scarblade Chang was stunned. He looked at Tan Xiao and Miao Wentong with an incredulous expression on his face. 1 billion plus 1. 5 billion, that was 2. 5 billion. How could he say that he didn't have much money? Looking at Scarblade Chang's expression, Tan Xiao understood his thoughts and lightly said, I have 5 billion in debt. Moreover, the company has just started, so I need to continue to invest more. Therefore, this money can't be used to build a winery. Also, I won't invest too much in the beginning, 100 million at most. Hiss, Scarblade Chang suddenly sucked in a mouthful of cold air upon hearing it. Investing 100 million in the beginning, but not much? How big of a winery does this lord want to build? How big of a wine business is he going to do? Miao Wentong looked at Tan Xiao with a strange expression as he asked with a probing tone, Brother Tang, if you're really short on money, I'll think of a way. Give me a few more days and I'll be able to gather a few 100 million. How about you let me invest in it? I don't care about the business, I'm just waiting for the dividends. How about it? Xiao Mingzhen also quickly said, I'm also willing to come up with 100 million. Give me some shares. Scarblade Chang's body shivered. He recalled that Tang Xiao had promised to give him 10% of the shares. He nearly suffocated to death. 10% of 100 million was 10 million. If he had a few 100 million, he would become a billionaire. Was this what God meant when he said, good people will be rewarded? However, Tan Xiao's next words made him dumbfounded. 2 gentlemen, you can contact me at any time if you want to explore in the future. As for the business, forget it. In my business, I like to have absolute control. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen looked at each other in dismay and only smiled wryly. They had a feeling that if Tan Xiao wanted to build a winery, it wouldn't be simple. Perhaps he had a way to make the wine business bigger and stronger. It seemed like he was going to miss this opportunity. Tan Xiao looked at Scarblade Chang and said, I still don't know your name. Scarblade Chang quickly said, Boss, my name is Dai Chang. You can call me Dao Ba, or Xiao Chang. Tan Xiao casually said, when you were mingling around, people called you Scarblade Chang. I'll call you that from now on. Also, I'm going to leave Qingshan town soon. I have something to do in Sangbei City before I return to Star City. Do you want to go with me now? Or do you want to arrange your affairs? Scarblade Chang said, I've arranged everything yesterday. I've also discussed it with my wife. Once I have a firm foothold in Star City, I'll take the mother and son to Star City so that my son can study there. Tan Xiao said, all right. Wait for your son to transfer, I'll help arrange the school. Scarblade Chang said with a grateful expression, thank you, boss. Tan Xiao waved his hand and said, let's go. Scarblade Chang looked at Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen. He then looked at their men and secretly felt apprehensive. He had indeed done many robberies before, and he had also staked his name and seen blood. But he didn't know why, whether it was Tan Xiao, Miao Wentong, Xiao Mingzhen, or those strong men, all of them gave him a dangerous feeling. Looking at Tan Xiao who was about to sit in the car, he whispered, Boss, can I drive my car and follow behind you? Tan Xiao asked, you have a car? Scarblade Chang pointed to a Toyota Prado parked on the street not far away and said, that's my car. Tan Xiao pondered for a moment before he looked at Miao Wentong and said, since he has a car, then I'll take his car. We'll go our separate ways when we arrive at Sangbei City. All right. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingzhen nodded. Upon hearing Tan Xiao's words, Scarblade Chang immediately ran to the SUV's trunk with a fawning attitude. As the strong man opened the trunk, he reached out to grab Tan Xiao's duffel bag. Let me do it. Tan Xiao also came to the trunk and calmly said. Scarblade Chang said with a smile, Boss, I'll handle the small matter of carrying the bag. After saying that, his arm exerted strength and was ready to lift the duffel bag. What's going on? Scarblade Chang was dumbfounded. He used a lot of strength and even tried to lift it twice. At this time, he even used his whole body's strength, but he could only lift the duffel bag a few centimeters high. Then, because of the leakage of strength, it fell into the trunk. Tan Xiu patted Scarblade Chang's shoulder and said with a smile, "Let me do it." Swish! Scarblade Chang looked at Tan Xiu as he lightly lifted the duffel bag. His square face instantly turned red, full of embarrassment. He wanted to be attentive and flatter, but the result was that he slapped the horse's leg and made a big joke of himself. He lost his face and made a fool of himself. However, he was also secretly shocked. Although he didn't know what was inside the duffel bag, Tan Xiu's strength made him secretly speechless. Looking at Tan Xiu's effortless appearance, he was sure that Tan Xiu's strength was definitely several times stronger than his, comparable to Hercules. "Boss, what's inside the bag? Why is it so heavy?" To cover up his embarrassment, Scarblade Chang stammered and asked. Tan Xiu lightly said, 2 stones. Stones? Scarblade Chang stared blankly and was secretly speechless. He couldn't understand the unique hobbies of these rich big bosses. Why would he give up his good life and come all the way to Qingshan town to get 2 stones? Wasn't this the same as having nothing better to do? Sangbei City. Flag District, Ruilong Auto Repair Shop. Wang Ming took the envelope handed by the boss. He didn't look at how much money was inside and stuffed it into his greasy work clothes. After retiring from the army, he, like his other comrades, declined the job arranged by the state and returned to his hometown. He wasn't alone. His only relative was his younger brother, who had just become an adult. Unfortunately, his younger brother was ignorant and incompetent. Since his parents passed away in a car accident a few years ago, no one could control him. Therefore, he often hung out with those riffraff. Because he skipped classes too many times, the school had expelled him. Now, he was an unemployed vagrant and a local ruffian. He beat and scolded him. It was useless. Now, he could only force him to work hard in this auto repair shop with him. He wanted him to be in front of him so that he could look after him and control him. "Big brother, give me your money." After Wang Xiang stuffed his salary into his pocket, he took a pair of pliers to Wang Ming and directly stretched out his hand to ask for money. Wang Ming frowned and lightly said, "What do you want?" Wang Xiang said, "To buy a new phone." Wang Ming was silent for a moment. He glanced at Wang Xiang's pocket and said, "If I remember correctly, you just bought a new phone a month ago. It's more than 3,000 yuan. Wang Xiang coldly snorted, "It's a new model. Can't I buy a better one? Will you give me the money or not? If you don't want me to find a way to get the money." Wang Ming sighed in his heart. He reached out his pocket and handed over the salary he just received. He was clear that his younger brother didn't want to buy a new phone. He definitely wanted to eat, drink, and have fun. "I'm taking a leave today." Wang Xiang threw these words and prepared to leave with the money. At this moment, a Toyota Prado SUV was parked in front of the garage. After getting off, Tan Xiu saw Wang Ming standing at the garage's door. Wang Ming's photo was on the list given to him by Yuan Jingxian. "Wang Ming." Tan Xiu walked over and called out. Wang Ming indifferently glanced at Tan Xiu and said, "I am." "Who are you?" Tan Xiu said, "I'm looking for you. I know your past, so I want you to work for me. I won't treat you badly." Wang Xiang, who was about to leave, heard Tan Xiu's words. His eyes suddenly lit up and he quickly asked, "What kind of treatment can you give my big brother? How much a month?" "Shut up!" Wang Ming shouted in a low voice. Wang Xiang snorted with dissatisfaction, "Big brother, how much money do we get as a mechanic here? It's not even enough for me to drink a few times." "In any case, you're a soldier who carried a gun. Can't you have some ambition? Even if you don't want to live a good life, I still want to live a good life." Tan Xiu looked at Wang Xiang and lightly said, "So you're that good-for-nothing little brother of his. However, what you said makes sense. It's hard to achieve great things by sticking to the rules. Even if you've been a soldier and carried a gun, killed people and seen blood, you can't live in the past. You must look backward in life. Wang Ming frowned deeply. He stared at Tan Xiao and asked in a heavy voice, "Who are you?" Tan Xiao calmly said, "A businessman. A man who can give you a different life. How about we talk about the conditions?" Wang Ming shook his head indifferently and lightly said, "No matter what conditions you raise, I won't agree to your request and I won't work for you. Just leave." Tan Xiao pondered and said, "I originally thought that a real soldier knows how to grasp and cherish the opportunity. I thought that they are mature, steady, meticulous, and have a very good vision and bearing. But you don't even want to listen to my conditions, which proves that you don't have any lofty ambitions. You've been blinded by your past glory. To put it bluntly, you have pride in your bones, but you do extreme and stupid things. What do you know?" Wang Ming sneered. With a bit of disappointment on his face, Tan Xiao shook his head and said, "I really don't know. I originally had some expectations for you, but now I'm full of disappointment. It seems I don't need to look for the legendary wolf head anymore. To be able to train someone like you, he must be a waste." Blue veins protruded on Wang Ming's forehead as he glared at Tan Xiao and shouted, "Shut up. Wolf head is not someone you can humiliate." Tan Xiao sneered, "What? I said you're a waste and you feel wronged. Humiliated? Do you think you deserve it?" Chapter 179. A cold glint flashed in Wang Ming's eyes as he took a step forward and said in an awe-inspiring tone, "You can humiliate me, but if you dare to humiliate our wolf head again, do you believe that I won't cripple you? Idiot." Tan Xiao sneered and said, "It's a society ruled by law now. Do you think you'll have a good time if you cripple me? What's more, you're not even comparable to an ant in my eyes. You want to cripple me with your mediocre skills? What an international joke." At this moment, Scarblade Chang, who was originally staying in the driver's seat of the Toyota Prado, heard the quarrel outside and quickly rushed over. He looked at the furious Wang Ming, and although he knew that Tan Xiao didn't need his protection, he still glared at him and shouted angrily, "What are you doing? You dare to be arrogant in front of my boss? Believe it or not, I will whip you to death." Eh. Wang Xiang's expression suddenly moved as a bit of shock was revealed in his eyes. He looked at Scarblade Chang and called out, You are Brother Chang. Brother Chang, Scar. Scarblade Chang's brows pricked as he glanced at Wang Xiang and said, "Do you know me?" Wang Xiang didn't dare to confirm Scarblade Chang's identity just now. But now that he heard Scarblade Chang personally admit it, a panicked expression immediately appeared on his face. He pulled Wang Ming and then said with an obsequious smile, "Brother Chang, I never thought it would really be you. I've met you with my boss before, Kidnapper Lu. He's my boss. It was all a misunderstanding just now. My brother didn't know that he was your boss. I persuaded my brother to let him work for your boss." Scarblade Chang said, "So you are Kidnapper Lu's man. That kid hasn't been well behaved recently. I heard that he's going to be out of luck soon. Since my boss has taken a liking to your brother, I'll give you a heads up. Hurry up and run, otherwise." Wang Xiang turned pale and hurriedly asked, "Brother Chang, what do you mean? Can you be more specific?" Scarblade Chang sneered and said, "Kidnapper Lu has a mistress who is secretly making some powder. That thing can cost his life. It was said that Kidnapper Lu's underlings were secretly involved. I have some connections in the police station. When I was drinking with a few friends, I heard them mention it." Wang Xiang's body trembled. He understood the meaning behind Scarblade Chang's words. If Kidnapper Lu's mistress was unlucky, then all the shitty things that Kidnapper Lu had done in the past would definitely be exposed. He and his brothers had also done bad things with Kidnapper Lu. What if? Tan Xiao glanced at Scarblade Chang and lightly said, "All right, don't scare him." Originally, he thought that the people who retired from the army were all men, but he didn't expect them to be good-for-nothings. Let's go. Wait. Seeing that Tan Xiu was turning to leave, Wang Ming immediately shouted in a deep voice. Tan Xiu came back to his senses and sneered, "What? Do you want to practice?" Wang Ming said disdainfully, "With your physique. You think you're fit to spar with me? I'm just warning you, no matter who you are, if you dare to humiliate Wolf Head again, I'll make you pay the price." Tan Xiu crooked his finger and sneered, "I'll give you this chance. Let's spar. If I win, you'll come with me and tell me the whereabouts of Wolf Head. If I lose, not only will I not hit your brother when he's down, I won't let him stay in prison for the rest of his life. I'll even let him live a good life. How about it? Won't hit him when he's down. Won't let him stay in prison for the rest of his life." Wang Ming instantly understood the hidden meaning of Tan Xiu's words. He angrily shouted, "Are you threatening me? You're really despicable and shameless." "There's a problem in your words, though," said Tang Xiu indifferently. "Although you're from the special forces, you're not a true elite." "But that's right, those soldiers who are always carrying out secret missions abroad and hovering on the line of life and death every day are the true elites, the real soldiers. Let's cut the crap. Do you dare to gamble with me or not? It's up to you." Wang Ming shook his head and said, "I can promise you that if I lose, I'll work for you later. But I can't tell you the whereabouts of Wolf Head. Also, I won't do anything that violates the law." "Coward." Tan Xiu ridiculed him as he turned around and walked toward the off-road vehicle. Wang Ming clenched his fists tightly as anger flashed in his eyes. After Tan Xiu took 3 or 4 steps, he instantly strode forward and blocked Tan Xiu's path in just 2 breaths. A swift and fierce kick instantly whipped toward Tan Xiu's cheek. "Humph!" Tan Xiu moved as fast as lightning, accurately grabbing Wang Ming's ankle. His palm pulled inward, and his arm instantly hit Wang Ming's chest. Tan Xiu's toes lightly hooked Wang Ming's ankle and instantly knocked him to the ground. "Is this your level?" Tan Xiu didn't attack again, but asked in disdain. Wang Ming was awed by Tan Xiu's strength, but the humiliation and anger in his heart were even more intense. He leaped up from the ground like a carp and fiercely punched toward Tan Xiu. "Pa!" Tan Xiu reached out to grab Wang Ming's fist. After shaking his head, he kicked Wang Ming's chest and watched him fly backward. Then, he said indifferently, "The two of us aren't on the same level. You may have some ability in front of ordinary people, but you're not even an ant in front of me. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm short of manpower, I wouldn't even look at you." Wang Ming was thoroughly shaken. The pain in his chest made him sober. What this young man said was right. Compared to him, he was simply not even an ant. He had encountered countless opponents in his life, but he had never lost so miserably, nor had he ever met such a strong expert. In his heart, Wolf Head was very strong. Even 3 to 5 of him together wouldn't be Wolf Head's match. But he was sure that even Wolf Head couldn't make him lose the ability to fight back. This young man in front of him was more terrifying than Wolf Head. "Who the hell are you?" Wang Ming clutched his chest as he looked straight at Tan Xiu and asked. Tan Xiu said, "If you want to know who I am, then follow me and work for me. In addition, I never take the initiative to touch those who violate the law. But if there are people who violate the law and offend me, I won't be lenient. What I need is loyalty and resolute obedience to my orders." At the side, Wang Xiang stood beside Scarblade Chang. He could see that Tan Xiu didn't use too much force. Although he was worried about his big brother, he still refrained from helping. However, he was very shocked inwardly, because he knew his big brother Wang Ming's skill. A few days ago, he and several of his brothers were besieged by a group of gangsters. His big brother alone beat down more than a dozen gangsters armed with knives. Although he also suffered some superficial wounds. Such a powerful big brother was beaten by this young man in front of him without any strength to fight back. How strong was this young man? "Big brother Chang, what does your boss do? How can he be so powerful?" Wang Xiang lowered his voice and asked. Scarblade Chang lightly glanced at him and said, I don't know. You don't know? Wang Xiang was surprised. How can you not know? You're his subordinate, how can you not know what he does? Big brother Chang, are you joking? Scarblade Chang apathetically said, I really don't know. I only know that the boss is very powerful and rich. He's the boss of a large group. As for the rest, I don't know anything. Wang Xiang was surprised, then you still dare to follow him? Scarblade Chang squinted his eyes and lightly said, Boss is generous and a good man. Following him will give you a promising future. The answer made Wang Xiang dumbfounded. Tan Xiu looked at Wang Ming and calmly said, You don't need to rush to answer me. I don't need 1 or 2 people. I need a team. If you agree, bring Wolfhead to Star City and find me. I live in Southgate Town. Remember, you only have 3 days. After 3 days, even if you come, I won't accept you. After saying that, he turned around and walked toward the Toyota Prado. The moment he got on the car, he suddenly stopped, turned his head and spoke again, I haven't said my conditions yet. If you follow me, I'll let your brother live a peaceful life. I can also guarantee the future of the 2 of you. The off-road vehicle started. Wang Ming and Wang Xiang, the 2 brothers, looked at the gradually fading off-road vehicle with a complex expression. Wang Xiang didn't care about Tan Xiu's words, but Wang Ming fell into silence. His heart was constantly struggling. He was only in his 30s and was used to drinking blood at gunpoint. It was really hard for him to live like an ordinary person's life year after year. He had been holding it in for the past few months. But the feeling of living like a year was absolutely torturous. Should I contact Wolfhead? What's the origin of that young man? Wang Ming's complexion constantly changed. Wang Xiang used his elbow to touch Wang Ming and said, Big brother, I can assure you that if we follow that big boss, we'll definitely be able to eat and drink well in the future. I know Scarblade Chang. He's a big shot in the underworld of Cangbei City. Even he has followed that person. I think we can give it a try. Shut up. Wang Ming snapped in a low voice. Wang Xiang said with dissatisfaction, Big brother, look at our current poor appearance. We're dirty and our income is pitiful. Don't tell me you don't want to live a decent life in the future. Besides, I'm still young, so it's fine. But you're already in your 30s, yet you don't even have a wife. Do you want me to be like you, still a bachelor in my 30s? Wang Ming hesitated. He knew that what his brother said was right. But he didn't know the origin of that young man. Just based on the opposite party's provocation and promise, as well as his powerful martial arts foundation, he wanted to follow him. Big brother, if you don't agree, I'll go to Dad and Mom's grave to complain. Wang Xiang glared at Wang Ming and shouted. Wang Ming was silent for a moment. Then, he slowly said, Give me some time. I'll go to Star City after I think about it. Even if I want to work with him later, I must clearly investigate his background. Alright, I'll go with you. Wang Xiang was overjoyed and said without hesitation. Wang Ming looked at him coldly and shook his head, saying, You're not allowed to go. I'll find some comrades in arms to go with me. You obediently stay in Cangbei City. If I find out that you don't listen to me, I won't take you with me even if I have a rich boss in the future. You. Chapter 180. Star City Train Station. Ouyang Lulu was wearing a black leather coat and a black cap. Her beautiful face was partially covered by a pair of big black sunglasses. She crossed her arms and leaned on the pillar near the exit, watching the tourists coming out one after another. In her heart, she was secretly calculating how to make Tan Xiu go back to Jingmen Island with her. A few days ago. Ever since her mother, whom she had not seen all year round, returned home, she had been living at home. Even when chatting with her yesterday, her mother learned from her that Tan Xiu had gone to the prime forest mountain range for an adventure, so she took the initiative to invite Tan Xiu to their home as a guest. It just so happened. She knew that Tan Xiu had just finished his college entrance test and that Tan Xiu would return to Star City today. Therefore, after she hurriedly arrived, she directly ran from the airport to the train station. This great-aunt personally came to Star City to invite him. If he dares to refuse, I'll definitely bite him a few times. As Ouyang Lulu thought about it, a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Suddenly, as she walked out of the station's exit, she saw Tang Xiu's figure in the crowd. Her eyes immediately lit up and she quickly greeted him. "Why are you here?" Tan Xiu looked at the cool Ouyang Lulu. Even though half of her face was covered by the cap and big sunglasses, he could still recognize her at a glance. Ouyang Lulu took off her sunglasses, revealing her devastatingly beautiful face that could cause the downfall of a nation. A curved arc was outlined on the corner of her mouth as she said with a charming smile, "Of course, I'm here to welcome you. How is it? Isn't it a big surprise?" "It's indeed a surprise," said Tan Xiu. "I'm thinking whether I should take a taxi or a bus home." The smile on Ouyang Lulu's face froze. She lifted her foot and kicked Tan Xiu's calf as she angrily said, "You still want me to be your coachman?" Tan Xiu didn't dodge, nor did he feel any pain. He looked at Ouyang Lulu with a beaming smile and said, "It's definitely your honor to be my coachman. A lot of people cry and shout to be my coachman, but I disdain them. Let's go. A lot of people are looking at you." Ouyang Lulu turned her head and looked around. Indeed, she found that a lot of tourists were looking at her with amazement. However, she also noticed Scarblade Chang behind Tan Xiu. She raised her brows and asked, "Tan Xiu, who is he?" Tan Xiu turned his head and looked at the dumbfounded Scarblade Chang, who was obviously fascinated by Ouyang Lulu. Then, he said with a faint smile, "He's a talent I bumped into in Sangbei. Bring him back to Star City and make him work for me." Scarblade Chang desperately swallowed a mouthful of saliva as his eyes reluctantly moved away from Ouyang Lulu's face. He was a dignified man who was also quite famous in Sangbei City. But at this moment, he was defeated by Ouyang Lulu's gaze, causing a bit of embarrassment to appear on his face. If said. Previously, he was in awe of Tan Xiu because of Tan Xiu's strength and wealth. At this moment, his respect had turned into worship. He had seen countless women, but he had never seen such a beautiful girl. And this girl actually ran to the train station to pick up her boss. Even this boss of his really treated her as a coachman. Outside an upscale hotel in Star City, Tan Xiu sent Scarblade Chang off the car and told him to stay here for a few nights. He also told him that he would look for him tomorrow. After that, Ouyang Lulu drove him to South Gate Town. On the road, Tan Xiu dialed Chen Zhizhong and Kang Xia's number and told them to come to South Gate Town. He had a fruitful harvest in this adventure. Just as he got off the train, he received a text message reminding him that 2.5 billion had been transferred to his account. He had already made arrangements for this money in his heart. In the villa's courtyard in South Gate Town, Ouyang Lulu parked the car in the parking space and curiously said, "This is your house? It's quite stylish." Tan Xiu opened the trunk and took out a big black travel bag from the inside. Then, he said, "This villa is a gift from Long Zhengyu." Ouyang Lulu said with a smile, "Long Zhengyu has a good vision. The rate of return on investment is absolutely great. I heard you did him a big favor, so his company can make a fortune." Tan Xiu smiled and didn't answer the topic. After entering the villa, Tan Xiu saw Mu Qingping busy in the kitchen. He directly came to the kitchen door and said, "Big sis Mu, there will be guests at home tonight. Prepare more dishes." "All right." Upon seeing Tan Xiu coming back, Mu Qingping immediately smiled. When she saw Ouyang Lulu behind Tan Xiu, she said with a smile, "It turns out to be Miss Ouyang. Welcome." Ouyang Lulu said with a smile, "Hello, big sis Mu. How come I don't see little Yinyin? Mu Qingping said, she's in the conference room. Looking at the time, it's almost over. Tan Xiao looked at Ouyang Lulu entering the kitchen and no longer spoke. Returning to the study room on the second floor, he took out 2 sky sandstones from inside. Then, he emptied a bookshelf and put the 2 sky sandstones on it. I'm missing a safe. Tan Xiao pondered for a moment and then made a decision in his heart. He went back to the first floor. Ouyang Lulu was still in the kitchen, helping Mu Qingping cook. But Qin Zhizhong was already waiting in the living room. Master. Ever since Qin Zhizhong acknowledged Tan Xiao as his master, he was extremely respectful to him. Tan Xiao waved his hand, motioning him to sit on the sofa and said, give me your bank account number. I've got some money recently, so I'll give you a part first. Qin Zhizhong quickly said, Master, this disciple is filial to you. How can I take it back? Besides, I'm not short of money recently. Tan Xiao said, I'll give you the money. I'll leave some for emergencies. Aren't you running a medicinal herb business? Just give me more medicinal herbs later. I'll give you a list of medicinal herbs. Try to get as many medicinal herbs as you can. Wait for me to refine a medicinal pill, it will also have an effect on you. Medicinal pill? Qin Zhizhong's eyes lit up and immediately said respectfully, thank you, master. Subsequently, Tan Xiao transferred 2 billion yuan to Qin Zhizhong's account through his mobile phone. He then asked, how's your cultivation recently? Has all the true qi in your body been transformed into true essence? Qin Zhizhong said, all of it has been transformed. Also, I've made some progress recently because I've been using medicinal herbs to make soup. Master, my current strength is at least twice as strong as before. Tan Xiao said with a smile, your cultivation is barely at the threshold of the immortal cultivation realm. There's still a long way to go in the future. When you reach the golden core stage, it can barely be regarded as a minor accomplishment. And when you reach the nascent soul stage, it can barely be regarded as a great accomplishment. Only when you break through to the immortal stage can you meet my minimum requirements. Qin Zhizhong revealed a yearning look and firmly said, Master, this disciple will definitely cultivate according to your requirements and will never dare to neglect it. I'll go all out to find the medicinal herbs you need. Ring, Qin Zhizhong's mobile phone rang. When he took it out and saw the remittance notification, he looked up at Tan Xiao and said in surprise, You transferred 2 billion to my account? Yes, you received it so quickly. Tan Xiao said. Qin Zhizhong was shocked and said, I haven't received it yet, but I have a remittance notification here. It should be in the account tomorrow. Master, what did you do? How did you get so much money in such a short time? I sold something to these 2 cultivators, Tan Xiao said lightly. Hiss, Qin Zhizhong was shocked and asked, what did you sell? It's actually worth so much money. It's nothing good. Tan Xiao shook his head and said, an immortal cultivation technique and a beast taming art. It's a pity that these 2 are too poor and can only take out a few billion at most. Otherwise, I would have asked for more. A few billion? Too poor. Qin Zhizhong could only force a wry smile inwardly. He had a net worth of tens of billions, yet in Tan Xiao's eyes, he might not necessarily be considered as well off. 10 minutes later, Kang Xia rushed to the villa and saw that aside from Tan Xiao, Qin Zhizhong was also in the villa's hall. She nodded to Qin Zhizhong and then looked at Tan Xiao and said, Is there something you need from me, boss? Isn't the company short on money? Tan Xiao said. I got some money recently, so I'll transfer 300 million to you. You can use it for the time being. We'll talk about it if it's not enough. Kang Xia was pleasantly surprised and said, 300 million? That's great. Tan Xiao snappily said, It's not easy for me to make money, so you gotta save it for me. Arrange the company's affairs as soon as possible and strive to get on the right track as soon as possible. Kang Xia said with a smile, Boss, with your 300 million, I guarantee that our company's preliminary plan will be fully implemented before September 1st. Also, I've contacted several banks in Star City. As long as we can prove our company's strength, we should be able to get a large loan. Tan Xiu frowned and said, getting a loan from the banks? Do we still need a loan from the banks? Kang Xia nodded and said, according to the business plan I've formulated and the estimated funds needed, I'm afraid we'll need at least 3 billion. Our company's current funds are far from this amount. Therefore, we need a loan from the banks to implement our plan. Tan Xiu said, I'll leave this matter to you. Also, are you very busy now? Kang Xia said, I'm very busy. I'm almost dizzy from being so busy. Tan Xiu said, then forget it. I originally had a project that I wanted to give to you. But seeing that you're too busy, I'll find someone else. Stay here for dinner tonight. You can go and do your work after dinner. Kang Xia quickly said, Boss, you still have a project. What project? It was a good project. She would never push it out. For example, the healthcare products, which obviously had huge profits. Even if it was hard and tiring, she was willing to do it. Furthermore, she now worshipped Tan Xiu very much. She believed that Tan Xiu's project would definitely be very good. Tan Xiu said, build a winery and sell the wine. Wine? Kang Xia stared blankly for a moment and immediately asked, Boss, do you have the recipe for the wine? How does it taste like? Tan Xiu said, I do have the recipe, and it's absolutely a fine wine. Therefore, I'm going to set the position of the wine as the highest grade in the world. The highest grade in the world? Kang Xia liked listening to Tan Xiu's words the most. Her beautiful eyes turned into crescent moons as she said, Boss, let's put the winery under our magnificent Tang Corporation's name. I can also set up a subsidiary company. I'll take control of the overall situation and leave the trivial matters to the people below. Chapter 181. Looking at Kang Xia's high-spirited and happy expression, Tang Xiu asked with an astonished expression, Aren't you too busy to handle it? Time is squeezed out, said Kang Xia. It's no problem to squeeze some time. Don't tire yourself. Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. Don't worry, boss. I know what I'm doing, said Kang Xia with high fighting spirit. I'll take care of our business under the condition that I'm healthy. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and slowly asked, Can I ask a personal question? What personal question? Kang Xia was confused. You ask, I've never asked about your family. Who else is there in your family? Asked Tan Xiu. Kang Xia stared blankly for a moment before a gloomy expression flashed in her eyes. She shook her head and said, My foster parents are Americans. They died in a plane crash a few years ago. I have a maternal grandmother who married a foreign old man. I only visit her once a year. Tan Xiu nodded and made a decision in his heart, saying, I'll teach you a set of cultivation technique to ensure your health. But you must remember that this set of cultivation technique can only be practiced by yourself and must not be passed on to others. You're not allowed to tell anyone that you're a cultivator. A set of cultivation technique? Are you kidding me, boss? Kang Xia was at a loss whether she had to cry or laugh. Do you think we're still in ancient times? Cultivating true qi and becoming a martial arts expert? Tan Xiu raised his brows. His body instantly appeared at Kang Xia's side. With a lightning-fast movement, he grabbed Kang Xia's shoulder and threw her into the air. With a twist of his wrist, Kang Xia also spun in the air. She screamed, but Tan Xiu ignored her. As he strode forward, he appeared outside the villa's courtyard with Kang Xia. Bam! Kang Xia was put down by Tan Xiu. Her body staggered and fell to the ground. Kang Xia was dizzy from the fall, but she didn't have the slightest anger. Instead, she was shocked. Her eyes looked at the surrounding scene and her delicate body slightly trembled. She was scared. That's right. The situation just now was like a dream. If she hadn't experienced it herself, she wouldn't have believed it at all. Tan Xiu said indifferently, "Do you see the scene outside this courtyard?" "I saw it." Kang Xia nodded blankly. Tan Xiu once again grabbed Kang Xia's shoulder and increased his speed to the limit. In just 2 breaths, they had returned to the villa's hall and even threw Kang Xia back to the sofa. "Now do you believe that there are martial arts masters in this world?" Kang Xia sat up and looked around. There was a bit of fear in her eyes. After a long while, she said with a dumbfounded expression, "Boss, you took me to the Rising Dragon Martial School to challenge them. I knew that you're a martial arts expert. But I didn't expect you to be so powerful. I think that even martial arts masters can't do what you did." Tan Xiu laughed and said, "You have good taste. I am indeed not a martial arts expert, but an immortal cultivator. You might not have seen such people in real life, but you must have watched xianxia dramas or movies. A real immortal cultivator is even more powerful than those in the movies. They can easily call the wind and summon the rain, and even ride the flying sword. A real powerhouse can even pick the stars and chase the moon, and traverse the starry sky unhindered." "Immortals?" Kang Xia exclaimed in disbelief. Tan Xiu nodded and said, "That's right. It's not difficult to become an immortal. I'll teach you a cultivation technique. If you practice it well, you may be able to ascend to the immortal world." With a shocked expression, Kang Xia asked, "Boss, is there really an immortal world mentioned in the fairy tales in this world?" Tan Xiu said with a smile, "The immortal world in the fairy tales is really too small. When you become an immortal one day, you'll be able to see how magnificent the real immortal world is. I'll teach it to you after dinner. Remember, you must never mention this to anyone later." Kang Xia nodded. Suddenly, her expression moved as she asked in a whisper, "Boss, you just asked me about my family. You're afraid that I'll tell my friends and relatives, right?" "Yes." Tan Xiu said lightly, "I want you to be my real subordinate, not my hired employee. I can assure you that your world will expand infinitely if you follow me. Even if you follow me in the future, it won't be a problem for you to travel in the vast universe." Kang Xia gulped down her saliva and said with a short breath, "Boss, can you teach it to Andy as well? She has been following me for many years and is absolutely trustworthy. Furthermore, her background is even worse than mine. She has no family. Apart from me and Jack, she doesn't even have any friends." "Andy?" Tan Xiu recalled the beautiful angel-like girl. He slowly nodded and said, "Call her and tell her to come here." He didn't ask about Andy's situation in detail even though he heard that she had lived in the country with her parents for a few years. But the weather was unpredictable, just like people had their ups and downs. Since Kang Xia said that Andy was an orphan, it was likely that her parents had encountered some mishaps. Chen Zhizhong quietly sat at the side with a smile hanging on the corner of his mouth. He was very happy that Tan Xiu had developed Kang Xia as his direct subordinate. After all, Kang Xia was very powerful and definitely a proud daughter of heaven in the business field. If she could work hard for Tan Xiu in the future, he believed that Tan Xiu would be able to make a lot of money and obtain a steady stream of cultivation resources. Suddenly, his expression moved as he glanced at the mobile screen and said, "Master, how about I invest in the winery you want to set up?" "You're in the medicinal herbs business, why would you invest in a winery?" Tan Xiu said. Chen Zhizhong forced a smile and said, "Actually, my endless virtue pharmaceutical has already developed to the limit. I've been wanting to expand to other fields for a long time, but I haven't been able to find a suitable investment target. This is also the reason why I have so much spare money. If I don't invest in your winery, I'm afraid I'll have to invest in other projects." Tan Xiu thought for a moment before he slowly nodded and said, "I'll give you 500 million yuan and 10% of the shares. You don't need to worry about the management since I've already found a director. Just wait for the dividends every year. As for your spare money, it's best to contact Long Zhengyu if you're interested. I have some business cooperation with him in real estate, and I believe we can make a lot of money. Originally, Tan Xiu didn't intend to let others intervene in his winery's business. After all, he was very optimistic about the winery's business. However, he was short of money at the moment. If Chen Zhizhong were to invest, it wouldn't be a big deal to give him some shares. After all, he was his disciple in name, and this was called keeping the goodies within the family. Chen Zhizhong was overjoyed. He found that it was really worth it to worship Tan Xiu as his master. Not only could he enter the ranks of immortal cultivators, but he could also have some gains in business. Without hesitation, he nodded and said, "I'll contact Long Zhengyu when I get back." Tan Xiu said, "You can directly contact Kang Xia about the business later. I have too many things to deal with, so I don't have time to manage the business." At this moment, Ouyang Lulu, wearing an apron, came out of the kitchen. After seeing Chen Zhizhong, her eyes slightly lit up. After all, she often saw Chen Zhizhong's interviews in financial magazines. However, when she saw Kang Xia, her brows slightly pricked. She was a beauty, an absolute beauty. But she had to admit that Kang Xia, whether it was her figure, appearance, or temperament, she didn't lose to her. A few days ago, she heard that Tan Xiu took Kang Xia as his own and even handed over the newly established company to Kang Xia to manage. But this was the first time she met Kang Xia. "Boss, who is this?" Kang Xia looked at Ouyang Lulu, especially when she saw her wearing an apron. She didn't know why, but a very awkward feeling arose inside her heart. Tan Xiu introduced, "She's Ouyang Lulu, the one who doesn't engage in proper business in Jingmen Island. She's also my friend. Lulu, she's Kang Xia, my right-hand woman." Ouyang Lulu rolled her eyes at Tan Xiu snappily. If it weren't for Tan Xiu calling her, "my friend," and calling her, "Lulu," she would have already quit long ago. However, even though she was happy inside, she still pretended to be dissatisfied and snorted, "What do you mean by not engaging in proper business?" "My Paradise Club is also a proper business, okay? Opening a casino is a proper business." Tan Xiu was surprised. "Of course it's a proper business," said Ouyang Lulu. "Every time there's a gambling house, it's always on the high seas, so it doesn't violate any country's laws, does it? Besides, take a look at Treasure Island. Gambling is legal there." Tan Xiu secretly shook his head. He was too lazy to refute Ouyang Lulu's sophistry. On the contrary, Kang Xia had a trace of curiosity towards Ouyang Lulu after hearing Tan Xiu's explanation. "Hello, Miss Ouyang." "Hello, Chief Kang." It was the first time for the two women to shake hands, but there was a trace of strange thoughts in their minds. The meal was served. Gu Yin also finished her tutoring. Under Tan Xiu's invitation, the tutoring teacher also stayed to have a meal together and conveniently inquired about Gu Yin's progress in her study. "Mr. Tang, Gu Yin is very smart and has a very good memory. It's the first time I've seen her comprehension ability. The second grade course will end in 2 days. Me and the other two teachers have already begun to prepare for the third grade's curriculum. However, the fourth, fifth, and sixth grades curriculum won't be taught by the three of us." A forced smile was revealed on the middle-aged female teacher's face as she said, "It's not that we can't teach the fourth grade's curriculum and above. It's just that we've reached our limit, and it's too tiring." "It's all right," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "I'll be satisfied as long as the following teachers are as good as you." Ouyang Lulu looked at the two of them and said with astonishment, "The teacher's lesson preparation speed can't keep up with the student's learning speed? What kind of fallacy is this?" The teacher forced a smile and said, "It's because her learning speed is too fast. With her current learning speed, I'm afraid she'll be able to finish all the courses from the second grade to the sixth grade before September 1st if she keeps up with it." Ouyang Lulu looked at Gu Yin with an incredulous expression and said with amazement, "She hasn't finished the second grade's curriculum yet, right? How can she finish learning all the contents of the other 4 grades in the next 2 or 3 months? Even a child prodigy wouldn't be able to do it, right?" Chapter 182. Gu Yin's teacher helplessly said, "A child prodigy can't do it, but Gu Yin can. I've been engaged in education for more than 20 years and have seen a lot of gifted and intelligent students. But the most powerful one is only 1/10 of her. Teacher Huang, you don't need to praise her." Tan Xiu said with a smile. "Be careful, she might become arrogant and complacent." "I won't be arrogant and complacent, master." Gu Yin grinned and said. "Master? Master, is she your disciple?" Chen Zhizhong was astonished. "She's my direct disciple." Tan Xiu nodded. "You can call her junior sister later." Chen Zhizhong gulped down his saliva and looked at Gu Yin in shock, unable to speak for a long time. When he was apprenticed, Tan Xiu had yet to accept a disciple. Yet now, he unexpectedly had a junior sister. Furthermore, he was keenly aware of the meaning of direct disciple. He was Tan Xiu's in-name disciple, while this little girl in front of him was Tan Xiu's direct disciple. The gap between their identities was quite big. Chen Zhizhong hesitated for a moment before he looked at Gu Yin and nodded. "Junior sister, this is the first time we meet. This senior brother didn't know about your existence before, so I didn't prepare a gift. I'll make it up to you next time." "Thank you, senior brother." Gu Yin giggled. Ouyang Lulu looked at Tan Xiu with a strange expression and asked, "Tan Xiu, you've accepted so many disciples. What are you going to teach them?" "I have a lot of skills. As long as I can teach them, I'll teach them," said Tan Xiu calmly. "What? Do you also want to worship me as your master?" "I'm very strict in accepting disciples, and they must undergo a test. Only ghosts want to worship you as their master." Ouyang Lulu rolled her eyes and snappily said. However, she realized that it was inappropriate just as she spoke. She quickly looked at Chen Zhizhong and said, "Chen, that's not what I meant. I was confused by this guy and spoke insincerely. Please don't take it to heart." Chen Zhizhong smiled and shook his head. He looked at Tan Xiu and Ouyang Lulu with a strange expression. The dinner was over. Chen Zhizhong and the teacher took their leave. Ouyang Lulu didn't want to stay in a hotel, so Tan Xiu asked Mu Qingping to pick a room for her. When only Kang Xia was left in the living room, Tan Xiu calmly said, "Come to my room. When Andy gets here, I'll teach you together." Kang Xia looked at Tan Xiu's clear eyes and nodded slightly. If it was any other man who asked her to follow him to his room, she would definitely turn around and leave. But Tan Xiu was different. From Tan Xiu's eyes, she could not see a trace of desire for love between a man and a woman. In fact, it was so clear that it made her secretly angry. Why was her charm ineffective against Tan Xiu? Room on the second floor. After Kang Xia followed behind Tan Xiu, she was a bit surprised. In her opinion, a man's room was a mess, even worse than a pig's nest. However, Tan Xiu's room was exceptionally clean and tidy. The quilt was folded very neatly, and the things were arranged in an orderly manner. She also asked about the faint scent of jasmine. Tan Xiu pointed to the sofa in the corner and said, "Take a seat first. Also, call Andy and ask her where she is. I'll take a shower and change my clothes." "All right." Kang Xia took out her mobile and watched as Tan Xiu took out his clothes from the cloakroom in the bedroom and then went to the bathroom. She could clearly hear the sound of the door being locked. "He locked the door, to guard against me?" Kang Xia stared blankly. An expression of being at a loss whether to laugh or cry was revealed on her beautiful face. In any case, she was a great beauty. If it were any other man, perhaps they would have already pounced on her. But this outrageous boss of hers actually locked the door to guard against her. Am I a tigress? A female pervert who covets for his beauty? Kang Xia shook her head and dialed Andy's number. Knowing that Andy would arrive in South Gate Town in 10 minutes, Kang Xia put away her mobile and carefully looked at Tan Xiu's bedroom. Her eyes finally fell on the neat bed. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. It was the first time she came to Tan Xiu's bedroom. Out of curiosity, she slowly walked to the bedside and carefully glanced at the bedding. To her satisfaction, Tan Xiu's bed didn't have a woman's long hair. Even Tan Xiu's short hair was nowhere to be found. He's a good man who knows his place. No, he should be a good boy. Kang Xia let out a faint smile as her eyes fell on the photo frame on the bedside table. It was a photo of Tan Xiu and a middle-aged woman. Knock, knock, the bedroom door was knocked as Ouyang Lulu came in. When she saw Kang Xia sitting on the edge of Tan Xiu's bed and holding the photo frame, she immediately frowned and said with a displeased expression, "If my guess is correct, this is Tan Xiu's bedroom, right? Why are you here?" Upon seeing the cold expression on Ouyang Lulu's face, Kang Xia also felt irritated and indifferently said, "Can't I be here?" Ouyang Lulu was angry, but she didn't know how to refute. She hesitated for a moment before she coldly snorted and asked, "Where's Tan Xiu?" "I'm looking for him." Kang Xia pointed to the bathroom door and said, "He's taking a bath." Ouyang Lulu stared and incredulously said, Could it be that you?" Kang Xia calmly said, "I want to, but he doesn't like women. The bathroom door is locked." Ouyang Lulu angrily shouted, "How can you be so shameless? Tan Xiu is your boss and you're his subordinate. This idea of yours is immoral." Kang Xia deliberately showed a surprised expression and asked, "What's wrong with the boss and his subordinate? Can't the boss and his subordinate be together?" Ouyang Lulu was speechless. She had a good impression of Tan Xiu, and she also understood the thoughts of her family. That was why she always showed the attitude of a little woman in front of Tan Xiu. But when he saw Kang Xia's appearance and listened to her words, Ouyang Lulu suddenly had a feeling that her man was being snatched away by another woman. She was wild by nature, so she directly kicked off her slippers and jumped onto Tan Xiu's bed. She even spread out the quilt and got in. She raised her chin and said, "It's absolutely impossible for you two to be together. Tan Xiu is mine. She will never be able to escape from me. Even if she stays in this bedroom, it should be me." Kang Xia's heart was also filled with anger. She originally didn't have that kind of intention toward Tan Xiu, but after seeing Ouyang Lulu's provocative look, most of her reason faded away in an instant. She directly took off her coat, only wearing a small vest, and said, "Then let's compete and see who can get him. Do you believe that I will go to the bathroom right now and take a bath with him? How dare you?" Ouyang Lulu instantly sat up straight and glared at Kang Xia. Kacha, the bathroom door was opened, and Tan Xiu walked out. When he saw the two women in the room, he immediately revealed a confused look. In an instant, Kang Xia and Ouyang Lulu's faces turned red. Thick shyness rippled inside their hearts like spring water. This is really embarrassing. The two women secretly groaned inside, regretting that they shouldn't have competed with each other. Ouyang Lulu opened the quilt and jumped down from the bed. She suppressed the shyness inside her heart and pretended to be serious as she said, "Let me see if your bed is comfortable or not. It's not bad, but it's still lacking compared to the bed in the guest room." Kang Xia picked up her coat and awkwardly said, "It's a bit hot." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "The weather is really hot. The air conditioner remote control is in the bedside table. Take it and turn on the air conditioner." "Ouyang Lulu, why did you come to my bedroom?" Ouyang Lulu glared at Kang Xia and then replied, "I have something I want to talk to you about." "What is it?" Tan Xiu asked. "It's a private matter. It's inconvenient for outsiders to be present," said Ouyang Lulu. Tan Xiu looked at her with an astonished expression and then said to Kang Xia, "Then go to the study room and wait for me. There's a mannequin on the desk and you can clearly remember the acupoints. If Andy comes, tell her to remember it clearly." "All right." Kang Xia rolled her eyes at Ouyang Lulu and then walked out of the door. Ouyang Lulu was confused and said, "Tan Xiu, why did you tell her to look at the mannequin and remember the acupoints? I know you're a Chinese medicine practitioner. Could it be that this surnamed Kang has a strange disease and needs your treatment? And that Andy you mentioned, Who is she? Tan Xiu frowned and pondered for a moment. Then, he lied and said, Kang Xia has been working day and night, busy with the business. Her body is indeed not good. It's understandable for me to treat her. As for Andy, she's also one of the company's top executives and also needs to recuperate her body. Ouyang Lulu suddenly understood and a smile appeared on her face again. She said, You told Kang Xia to wait in your room to treat her? Of course. What else did you think? Tan Xiu said. Ouyang Lulu waved her hand and said with a smile, I thought that Kang Xia, that vixen, wanted to seduce you. You made me worry in vain. Tang Xiu rolled his eyes and snappily said, What are you worried about, whether she'll seduce me or not? Hurry up and say it. What private matter do you want to talk to me about? Pig head, so stupid. After saying that, Ouyang Lulu secretly regretted it. What made her dumbfounded was that Tan Xiu unexpectedly didn't understand the meaning behind her words. She had seen men who didn't know how to flirt with women. But she had never seen a man who didn't know how to flirt with women. Don't tell me, he hasn't matured yet. Ouyang Lulu glanced at Tan Xiu's private parts with a strange expression. Her mouth couldn't help but twitch a few times. Sensing that Tan Xiu was looking at her, she quickly put away her wretched thoughts and said with a smile, It's actually not a big deal. I just wanted to ask you when you have time to go to Jingmen Island with me. What for? Tan Xiu asked with a confused expression. Ouyang Lulu said, My parents want to invite you to my house as a guest. They want me to be your lobbyist. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, Are you sick or what? I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner, I can treat you. I don't know your parents, so why would they invite me? On the way to Star City, Ouyang Lulu had long thought about the wording, so she said with a smile, Did you forget? Last time in the KTV, if it wasn't for you coming in time and saving me from those bad guys, I'm afraid my reputation would have been ruined. So, they want to thank you in person. Chapter 183. A wisp of morning light shone from the eastern sky. Tan Xiu got up very early today because he wanted to go to the driving school and find his mother to tell her about his matter. He believed that with his excellence, even if his mother found it difficult to accept it in a short time, she would still be happy for such an excellent son as long as she was given more time. After breakfast, Tan Xiu left the villa and walked out of the villa complex's gate. He nodded to the two security guards who saluted him and then walked to the roadside, quietly waiting for the arrival of a taxi. Honk honk, the car's horn sounded. Tan Xiu looked at the Porsche parked in front of him and found that it was Long Shuiao sitting in the driver's seat. He immediately smiled and said, Are you going out? I'm going out to do something. Where are you going? Do you want me to give you a ride? Tan Xiu shook his head and said, I'm going to find a driving school and take advantage of the summer vacation to get my driver's license. You go do your own thing. Don't worry about me. Long Shuiao said with a smile, It's all right. I'm not in a hurry. Besides, there are very few taxis coming here. You need to go to the commercial street 1 kilometer away if you want to get a taxi early. Let's go. There's a big driving school near the place I'm going to. It's very good. Where are you going? Tan Xiu asked. To the tax bureau, said Long Shuiao. Tan Xiu nodded. He opened the door and sat on the front seat. He smelled the jasmine fragrance floating in the car and looked at the lovely hanging ornaments inside, saying, I know your surname is Long, but I didn't expect you to be Long Zhengyu's cousin. I heard it from Long Zhengyu when I was drinking with him a few days ago. Long Shuiao started the car and said with a smile while driving, I thought you already knew it. But if you need a driver's license, I have a way to help you get one directly. You don't need to go to the driving school every day. You can also go through the back door. Tan Xiu was surprised. Long Shuiao couldn't help laughing and said, What do you mean by going through the back door? You just don't need to go to class and directly take the test. If you don't have the confidence, you can just find someone to take the test for you. As long as there are enough benefits, the examiners will turn a blind eye to it. What a sinful money society. Tan Xiao shook his head and sighed. If that's the case, then please help me find someone. I owe you one. To be honest, I do have a lot of things to do during the summer vacation, so I don't have much time to study. Long Shuiao said with a smile, no problem. Then let's go to another driving school. I know someone there. You arrange it. Tan Xiao nodded. Half an hour later. Tan Xiao and Long Shuiao came out of a driving school. Tan Xiao paid the registration fee and Long Shuiao helped him find the principal of the driving school. As for the following matters, he would come to class when he had time. If he didn't need to come. The driving school would inform him when it was time for the test. Alright, I've troubled you this time. I'll treat you to a meal when I have time. Tan Xiao said. Long Shuiao said with a tender smile, you're my cousin's friend, so you don't need to be polite with me. You can have a meal anytime. I'm very free. Tan Xiao thought for a moment and said, tomorrow. I'll look for you tomorrow. Long Shuiao picked up her mobile, shook it and said, then I'll wait for your call. Tan Xiao remembered Long Shuiao's phone number and casually stopped a taxi in front of the driving school's entrance. Calculating the time, his mother should have arrived at the restaurant at this time. Sure enough. When Tan Xiao arrived, he saw his mother and several waiters setting up the tables and chairs. He could see them chatting and laughing, chatting happily. Mom, Tan Xiao called out. Su Lingyun turned around. After seeing Tan Xiao, she was immediately pleasantly surprised and said, Xiao, you've come back from your trip. How was it? Did you have a good time outside? Tan Xiao said, not bad. Mom, let Ban's Ho and the others take care of the restaurant's business today. I'm going to take you to a place. Where are you going to take me? Su Lingyun asked with a puzzled expression. Tan Xiao said with a faint smile, haven't you always felt that I've become mysterious recently? I'll tell you the answer today. Su Lingyun hesitated for a moment before she nodded and said, then, let's go. Southgate Town. When Tan Xiao and Su Lingyun got off the taxi, Su Lingyun looked at the Southgate Town's entrance and said with some timidity, Xiao, why did you take me here? I know this place. It's Southgate Town. The advertisement said that this is the most high-end villa area in the whole journey. People who can live here are either rich or respectable. Look at the security guards at the entrance, they're just like policemen. Let's go. Otherwise, others will drive us away. Tan Xiao smiled as he pulled Su Lingyun's hand and walked toward the entrance. The two security guards at the entrance saluted Tan Xiao. The two security guards at the entrance also stood up. Su Lingyun looked at the security guards with an astonished expression and asked curiously, Xiao, they seem to know you. Have you been here before? Tan Xiao said with a smile, of course I've been here before. I've been living here for some time. Let's go. I know you're very surprised. I'll tell you everything in detail when we arrive at our home. Home here. Su Lingyun was scared by Tan Xiao's words. If there was a home here, how much would it cost to buy a villa? Along the way, the patrolling security guards constantly saluted Tan Xiao and Su Lingyun. The property management office's people also greeted Tan Xiao respectfully. Su Lingyun had never seen such a scene. She was so shocked that she was in a trance. Only when she followed Tan Xiao to the villa's entrance did she wake up as if she had just woken up from a dream. Looking at the magnificent villa with an excellent location and an extremely beautiful environment, Su Lingyun subconsciously grabbed Tan Xiao's arm and whispered, Xiao, you're not joking with me, are you? Even when your uncle was the richest, he couldn't afford such a big villa. Tan Xiao said with a smile, Mom, you'll know after you come in with me. Tan Xiao pulled Su Lingyun into the villa's entrance and went straight to the villa's hall. Seeing that Mu Qingping was about to go out, he said, Big sis Mu, let me introduce you. This is my mother's first time coming here. Mom, she's Big sis Mu, our housekeeper. Her daughter is my apprentice. Housekeeper. Apprentice? Su Lingyun was dumbfounded. She had been working hard all her life. She never thought that she would be able to afford a housekeeper in her lifetime. And that apprentice, what was she doing? Mu Qingping looked at Su Lingyun a few times and said with a smile, "Hello, I've seen your group photo in Tan Xiu's bedroom. You can call me Little Ping." Because of her age, Mu Qingping didn't know how to address Su Lingyun. After all, Su Lingyun was not much older than her. She was afraid that she was less than 10 years old. Her daughter was Tan Xiu's apprentice. Calling her big sis would be too low in seniority, and calling her auntie would be inappropriate. Su Lingyun blankly looked at Mu Qingping and then looked at Tan Xiu. After a long while, she said, "Xiu, Mom still can't accept it. Tell me, what the hell is going on?" Tan Xiu pulled Su Lingyun and walked around the villa. Then, he returned to the living room and sat down, saying, "Mom, I'm not only studying recently, but also doing some business. Don't be anxious, the college entrance test is over. I can assure you that my studies have not been delayed." Su Lingyun was surprised. Doing business? What kind of business? "Xiu, we can't do anything that violates the law." Tan Xiu said with a forced smile, "Mom, do you think I'm that kind of person? I have a lot of businesses, including cosmetics and healthcare products. As for the capital, I got it from drawing architectural designs for others. I've been hiding it from you because I'm afraid that you'll worry about my studies. The college entrance test scores will come out soon, and I guarantee that I'll be admitted to a key university." Su Lingyun was confused. "You can draw architectural designs? How come I don't know about it?" Tan Xiu said, "It's a hobby after school, just like how I understand Chinese medicine." Su Lingyun was silent. Her endurance was not strong. She couldn't recover from what her son had seen and heard today. After a long time, she looked at Tan Xiu and asked, "Son, you can afford to buy a villa in South Gate Town by doing some business. How much money do you have now?" Tan Xiu said with a smile, "Actually, I didn't buy this villa. I helped a friend a lot, so he gave it to me. As for how much money I haven't calculated it. I estimate it to be several hundred million." "How much?" Su Lingyun jumped up from the sofa and exclaimed in disbelief. Tan Xiu said, "At least several hundred million." Su Lingyun gulped down her saliva. She was really scared by this astronomical figure. Her restaurant's business was very good, with nearly 10,000 yuan coming in every day. But compared to several hundred million, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. Tan Xiu said with a smile, "Mom, we don't need to worry about money anymore. I've grown up. Not only can I finish my studies well, but I can also start a business. In the future, if you don't want to manage the restaurant anymore, you can sell it. If you still want to live your previous life, you can continue to manage the restaurant. In short, you can live your life according to your wishes. I only hope that you can live a comfortable and happy life in the future." Su Lingyun looked at Tan Xiu in a daze. She suddenly realized that her son had really grown up. He was no longer the child who needed her to protect and raise. Now, he really had the ability to take care of himself. Boo-hoo! Sitting on the sofa in the living room, Su Lingyun held her arms and cried bitterly. She thought of her husband, the hardships and grievances she had suffered all these years. "Mom," Tan Xiu just wanted to speak, but Mu Qingping reached out and stopped him. Mu Qingping sat down next to Su Lingyun. She reached out to hold her arm and softly said, "I know a little about your family's situation. I also know that you and I are the same, raising a child alone. I'm afraid only we know the sadness of it. I also understand why you cry. The child is promising, and the mother is happy. But in front of the child, we should smile and not cry. After all, this is a happy event. Do you think I'm right?" Chapter 184. Su Lingyun raised her head with tearful eyes and nodded repeatedly. A mother's love was as heavy as a mountain. Which mother didn't have the mentality of wishing their son to become a dragon and looking forward to their child's achievements in the future? Now, her son was so young, yet he had already built a career that ordinary people couldn't achieve in their lifetime. Her heart was as sweet as eating honey. You're right. Su Lingling wiped her tears and looked at Tan Xiu, saying, Xiu, Mom is proud of you. Tan Xiu gratefully looked at Mu Qingping and said with a smile, Mom, I'm also proud of you. The whole morning, Tan Xiu accompanied Su Lingyun and told her about the things he hid from her. However, he didn't say anything about his return from the immortal world and his identity as an immortal cultivator. Today, he didn't even dare to say too much about his total assets, let alone his immortal cultivation. He had never estimated how much money he had before. Now that he thought about it, just the private island in the Pacific Ocean alone was worth 2 to 3 billion. At noon, Tan Xiu accompanied Su Lingyun to have lunch. Looking at Su Lingyun's doting appearance toward Gu Yin, he said with a smile, Mom, have you decided? Move here and live with me. If you don't want to sell our original house, you can keep it. You can visit it later when you have nothing to do. Also, if you don't want to take the driver's license test, I'll help you find a driver to pick you up from work every day. Su Lingyun shook her head and said, I'm used to living there. If I move here, I'm sure I won't be used to it. Son, I won't move here first. I'll wait until you're admitted to college, then I'll consider moving here. If you want to stay here, then you can live here. If you want to go back, then you can live there. It just so happens that it's close to the restaurant, so I don't need to take the driver's license test. I'll find a driver. Tan Xiu didn't want to go against his mother's will, but he was also somewhat reluctant to let her continue to stay in the original house. After hesitating for a moment, he slowly said, All right. I've already reserved a room for you. Anyway, whenever you want to stay here, you can come over anytime. In the afternoon, Tan Xiu sent Su Lingyun back to the restaurant. When he left, he saw her smiling as if she was several years younger, and he was particularly satisfied. When Tan Xiu arrived at the hotel where Scarblade Chang was staying, he just happened to see Kang Xia rushing over. I just called you 10 minutes ago. How come you're here so soon? Tan Xiu asked with a smile. Kang Xia said, I was doing something nearby and happened to receive your call. Boss, is the director of the winery you found reliable? Tan Xiu narrated the course of his acquaintance with Scarblade Chang in full detail. Finally, he said, those who can turn over a new leaf are all heroes. Since he has the ability to brew wine, I will give him a chance. If he can grasp it well, it won't be a problem for him to have a meteoric rise in the future. If he can't grasp it and does a bad job, as his immediate superior, you have the right to fire him. Kang Xia said with a smile, I'm relieved that you've given me this Shang Fang sword. That's right, I've learned about several wineries in Star City this morning. One of them is quite good, but I haven't conducted a detailed investigation and field inspection. However, that winery is about to close down. If we can easily get it, it will save us a lot of trouble. Tan Xiu said, I'll leave this matter to you and Scarblade Chang. I'm busy with some important things in the next few days, so I can't manage the winery's construction and business matters. If you're short on money, just tell me and I'll find a way to get it. Kang Xia said with a charming smile, I don't need it for the time being. However, boss, you're really capable. I don't think you need me to help you manage the company. If you're short on money, you can find a way to get a lot of money. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, the money I need is not a small amount. Let alone billions, maybe tens of billions won't be enough for me. In short, I need to make money as much as possible. This will have a great impact on my future cultivation. Kang Xia was surprised and said, you're thinking of ways to make money for your future cultivation. Tan Xiu nodded and said, that's right. Only with resources can I cultivate faster. I'm currently severely short on resources. Fortunately, my cultivation is not high, so I can barely make do with it. Later when my cultivation is higher, the resources I need will also increase. It will be very difficult to speed up my cultivation without huge financial support. Kang Xia heavily nodded and said, I'll work hard in the future. I believe you. Tan Xiu confidently said with a smile. Do you really have that much confidence in me? Kang Xia asked with a confused expression. Of course I have confidence in you. You're helping me make money, and you're also helping yourself. You have shares in the company, and you've also started cultivating, so you'll need a lot of resources in the future. If you want to become stronger, you must have a lot of resources, and you must speed up the money making. Kang Xia was at a loss whether she had to cry or laugh as she said, so you taught me the cultivation technique for such a purpose. It can be said that I've been pulled into your pirate ship. You still have a chance to get off the ship, Tan Xiu jokingly said. Kang Xia firmly shook her head and said, I won't get off the ship even if I die. I still want to become a legendary immortal. Tan Xiu contacted Scarblade Chang in the hall and told him that he was waiting for him downstairs. Shortly after, Scarblade Chang hurriedly came down from upstairs. However, when he saw Kang Xia, he was once again bewitched by her beauty. He stared blankly at her for a while before he came back to his senses with an awkward expression. She's Kang Xia, the general manager of my company. She'll also be your immediate superior in the future. Remember, her words are my words. She has full authority to deal with everything on my behalf. If you don't do well, or if she's not satisfied with you, she has the right to fire you. Everyone had the heart to love beauty. Even heroes would find it hard to resist the charms of beauties. Scarblade Chang was shocked by Kang Xia's beauty, but he didn't care about it. He only told Scarblade Chang about Kang Xia's identity with a warning tone. With a straight face, Scarblade Chang seriously said, Rest assured, boss. Since you think highly of me and brought me from thousands of miles away, I promise I won't disgrace you. Tan Xiu nodded and said, Kang Xia, let's go to the winery you told us first. If it's really good and can be bought at a low price, then we'll build the winery there. As for the brewing formula, I'll tell Scarblade Chang about it. As for the production machine, we'll buy it after we determine the location of the winery. Kang Xia asked, Boss, what do you think about the sales of the wine we produce? Tan Xiu said, it's the same as our cosmetics and healthcare products. We'll open exclusive stores in every city, and we'll take the high-end route. The price of each bottle must be set at more than 5 digits. Isn't the price too high? Kang Xia exclaimed. Tan Xiu confidently said, whether it's high or not, you'll know when the time comes. Today. Kang Xia didn't drive her Lamborghini, but a Mercedes-Benz. Scarblade Chang could only force a wry smile inwardly since he became the driver. Mud Pond Winery. Star City's time-honored winery was once a state-owned enterprise. Later, it was sold by the government to an individual due to poor management. It was located in the Old River Street area, a remote area. Aside from a scrap collection station in the surroundings, there was only a crop field. The only road leading to this place was the winery's entrance. After the Mercedes-Benz stopped in front of the winery's entrance, Tan Xiu and the other two got off and came to the front gate. It's locked. Tan Xiu looked at the big rusty iron lock as he looked at Kang Xia with a puzzled expression. Kang Xia also frowned deeply and said with a puzzled expression, I got the information of several wineries from the internet, but I didn't conduct an on-site investigation. I don't know much about the winery's situation. How about we find someone to inquire about it? It just so happened. At this moment, an old man wearing a flowery vest and big pants strolled over while holding an opium pipe. Kang Xia quickly greeted him and asked, Grandpa, do you know why this Mud Pond Winery's door is locked? The old man's pace stopped as he looked at Kang Xia, Tang Xiu, and Tang Xiu a few times. Then, he snappily said, what else could it be? That damn boss owes the workers wages, and the wine he makes is so disgusting. There's simply no business. It would be strange if he didn't close the door. This old man used to watch the door here and still owes me half a year's salary. Since this winery is closed, what about the owner? Kang Xia asked with a puzzled expression. The old man cursed. He ran away. He owes a lot of debts, so if he doesn't run away, he'll be beaten to death. This winery has been taken back by the government. Who knows when it will be sold again? Kang Xia was surprised and asked, the government took it back. Is it because the winery owes the government money? The old man said, the winery's owner originally evaded taxes, but the government found out after it went bankrupt. So, it was confiscated. That's right, what are you doing here? We're here to learn about the winery's situation, said Kang Xia. We've been preparing to invest in the liquor business recently, so we came here to see how the business of this mud pond winery is. I didn't expect that this place would go bankrupt after we came here. Grandpa, thanks for telling me this. The old man waved his hand and left with his opium pipe. Kang Xia looked at Tan Xiu and asked, Boss, what should we do next? How do we negotiate with the government? Then negotiate with the government. Tan Xiu nodded. Try to buy it at a low price. If you don't have enough connections in Star City, look for Long Zhengyu. He's the local tyrant here. It's a waste not to use the resources. Kang Xia covered her mouth and laughed. Long Zhengyu has a friend like you. He's really out of luck. What you said makes sense. I'll contact him now and try to buy this winery at the lowest price as fast as possible. However, this winery is very dilapidated even though it has a large area. I'm afraid we'll have to rebuild the factory if we want to use it. Then we'll push it to the reconstruction. Tan Xiu said. Keep the useful things inside and dispose of everything that can't be used. After everything is done, we'll talk about the liquor sales. Today's 4th chapter has been released. Seeking monthly votes and official subscription support. Silent Night thanks. Chapter 185. In the following 2 days, Tan Xiu no longer paid attention to the winery issue. Instead, he bought a batch of things and prepared to brew wine in the warehouse. His brewing method was very special. In addition to some grains, he also bought a lot of medicinal herbs and fruits. However, if he wanted to brew wine, time was a problem. It would take at least a few days to ferment the grains, make the fruits into a sauce, and boil the medicinal herbs. Only then would he be able to brew the wine. However, everything was ready, but he found that he had no money in his hands. The 2.5 billion he got a few days ago, he gave 2 billion to Qin Zhizhong and 300 million to Kang Xia. The remaining 200 million was given to Chu Yi as the money to buy medicinal herbs. I have to think of a way to get money. The preliminary work of brewing wine had been completed. Standing in the warehouse, Tan Xiu thought with a helpless expression. He had a lot of things to do recently, but all of them needed money. He thought of selling another cultivation technique, but he had almost used up all of Xiao Mingzhen's and Miao Wentang's money. Even if he wanted to sell it, he couldn't find a suitable buyer. The other cultivator he knew was Dao Master Z, but he was extremely poor. Even if he sold everything he had, he wouldn't be able to get much money. Should he borrow money? Just as this idea emerged in Tan Xiu's mind, he immediately rejected it. Knock, knock, the warehouse's door was knocked as Gu Yin came in with an expectant look on her small face. She looked at Tan Xiu and said, Master, Yin needs to buy tutorials and workbooks. Mom is in class and has no time to accompany Yin to the stationery store. Can you accompany me? Alright, let's go now. Tan Xiu said with a smile. Although he had no money at present, he still had enough money to buy tutorials and workbooks. Moreover, Gu Yin's study was very important. He was still waiting for the grains to ferment, so he couldn't brew wine for the time being. Tan Xiu left South Gate Town with Gu Yin. Just as he walked out of the villa complex's gate, he keenly felt the existence of a threat. This kind of threat made him faintly uneasy. It was as if there was a pair of eyes staring at him from a dark corner. Have you offended anyone recently? Tang Xiu furrowed his brows and glanced around a few times in a seemingly casual manner. He held Gu Yin's hand tightly. No matter what danger he encountered, even if it meant getting himself injured, he would not let Gu Yin get hurt. A few minutes later, when Tan Xiu brought Gu Yin to the nearby commercial street, that feeling disappeared without a trace. However, he did not let his guard down. He accompanied Gu Yin to the stationery store to buy reference books and exercise books, and then directly sent Gu Yin home. Half an hour later, Tan Xiu left the villa quietly. He didn't go out from the front door. Instead, he went from the back of the villa and went up the hill. Then, he quietly went around the forest. Tan Xiu, who had changed his clothes and was constantly observing the surroundings with his sharp eyes, soon appeared in the vicinity of the South Gate town's entrance. However, he only hid behind a tree and quietly searched for the unknown enemy. In a building a kilometer away from Tan Xiu, two men were standing by the window with military binoculars in their hands, observing the buildings of the South Gate town. One of them was Wang Ming. Behind them, there were 4 other men drinking and chatting. Wang Ming put down the binoculars in his hands as he looked at the lean man beside him and said, "Wolf Head, we've investigated the identity of the other party. He's not a bad guy. Furthermore, he has such a big business at such a young age, and his skill is also very powerful. Do we still need to continue monitoring him? After all, he only gave us 3 days." Wolf Head said, "We've investigated him, but the information shown is not accurate. Don't be fooled by his appearance. He's not simple." When he took the little girl out of the South Gate town's villa complex's entrance, he already noticed that someone was monitoring him. "I'm not sure if he's aware of our existence, or if he's aware of the existence of another group of people." Wang Ming was surprised. "There's another group of people monitoring him." Wolf Head pointed to the northwest direction and lightly said, "Do you see that Liangpi stall on the street? I bought Liangpi from that stall this morning. The other party looks very ordinary, but he's definitely a powerful character. Furthermore, he should have a gun on him. In addition, according to my observation, there were only 3 people who went to the stall yesterday to buy anything. 2 of them just randomly took some things and left without even paying for them. As for the other one, it's a middle-aged woman with a child. She didn't buy anything." Wang Ming's mind moved as he quickly asked, "You mean, the other party is in disguise and wants to deal with that Tan Xiu?" Wolf Head nodded and said, "If my guess is correct, they should want to deal with him. I really want to watch this good show. I don't know if the final result will be his death, or those killers will have bad luck." Wang Ming asked, "Are we not going to help him?" Wolf Head sneered, "If he can't even solve such a trivial matter, what qualifications does he have to be our boss?" Wang Ming said, "If he really can't deal with those enemies, are we really going to follow him?" Wolf Head said indifferently, "Those killers lurking in the dark are very dangerous. Even if we brothers encounter them, we'll fail miserably if we're not careful. If he can deal with them, it proves that he's very powerful. It's not impossible for us to follow him to deal with them. However, I still don't know what he wants us to do with him." Wang Ming nodded and no longer spoke. He was also looking forward to Tan Xiu's next performance. Wolf Head raised his binoculars again. When he looked outside the South Gate town's villa complex's gate, his brows suddenly raised. A strange expression appeared in his eyes as he whispered, "Pay attention to the big tree 65 meters to the left of the gate. I didn't expect that he would actually sneak out of the villa complex and hide in the dark to observe the enemy. Huh. He should have found that stall selling Liangpi." Wang Ming quickly raised his binoculars and clearly saw Tan Xiu flashing out from behind the tree and walking toward the stall selling Liangpi. Stupid. If he just walks there and the other party directly shoots him, he won't be able to kill him even if he has 10 lives. Wang Ming immediately said in a low voice after he saw it clearly. Wolf Head said, "Keep looking. Near the south gate town's gate, Tan Xiu came to the front of the Liangpi stall. His sharp eyes sized up the middle-aged boss as he lightly said, "Give me 2 Liangpi. I'll take them away." The middle-aged man said with a smile, "All right, please wait a moment." After saying that, he quickly glanced at the distant street corner as he raised his left hand to scratch the back of his head. Then, he slowly grabbed a piece of Liangpi. Tan Xiu had been releasing his divine sense outside, covering a radius of 200 meters. The middle-aged boss's action was seen by his eyes. Within the scope of his divine sense, a man and a woman who looked like a couple quickly appeared under his surveillance. Gunmen? 3 people. Tan Xiu slightly squinted his eyes as he was ready to act. He didn't care who these people were. As long as they had killing intent toward him, he would never show mercy. "Boss, I don't want Liangpi anymore," Tan Xiu said as he turned around to leave. The middle-aged boss furrowed his brows and a murderous intent instantly emerged in his eyes. In a flash, his hand grabbed the handle of the gun on his waist. The moment he retracted his hand into his sleeve, the gun's muzzle was already aimed at Tan Xiu. His finger moved. Bam! As the gunshot rang out, the middle-aged boss's complexion greatly changed all of a sudden. It was because he was confident that his shot didn't hit Tang Xiu. He even felt his vision blur and lost sight of Tang Xiu's figure. Hiss! A gust of wind sounded and the middle-aged boss felt a chill on his neck. He gasped and felt that his neck was clamped by an iron clamp. Tan Xiu stood behind the middle-aged boss and whispered in his ear, "Don't act rashly, else I'll immediately break your neck." "Tell me, who wants to kill me?" The middle-aged boss's body turned stiff. He wanted to turn his head, only to find that he couldn't move his neck at all. A wave of horror surged inside his heart. His lips squirmed a few times and he bitterly said, "I don't know either. I've been paid to eliminate disasters for others. I just want the target's information and I'll get the money after the job is done." "I believe you." Tan Xiu sneered. "Don't move. Those young couple over there should be your people, right?" Tang Xiu sneered. "They also have guns. It seems that some people really value me and sent 3 assassins at once. Tell me, how much is my head worth?" Five million. 5 million for each of us, that's 15 million, said the middle-aged boss with a trembling voice. Tan Xiu nodded and said, "There should be a middleman between you and the employer, right? The 3 of you can get 15 million, but I'm afraid my head is more valuable. Tell me your contact with the middleman." 13814, the middle-aged boss gave him a cell phone number. Tang Xiu casually twisted the middle-aged boss's neck and grabbed his shoulder, looking at the man and woman who were getting closer without changing his expression. At this moment, the man and woman also noticed the unusual situation. They were more than 20 meters away from the stall and directly stopped. "Very vigilant." Tan Xiu sneered coldly. He took the middle-aged boss's pistol and fired several shots at the man and woman more than 20 meters away without hesitation. He had never used a gun before, but he could lock it with his divine sense. As his finger pulled the trigger, the bullets instantly hit the man and woman. Peach blossoms bloomed. Bright red flowers bloomed on the man and woman's foreheads. 2 shots killed 2 people. Tan Xiu didn't throw the pistol away, but directly stuffed it into his pocket. He covered his face with his sleeves and quickly disappeared from the stall's vicinity. "Ah, murder!" A cry of alarm came from nearby. A young woman carrying a handbag passed by. Hearing the gunshots and seeing the man and woman lying in a pool of blood, she panicked and lost her head. Even as he shouted, he ran into the distance. The 4 security guards at the entrance of South Gate Town hurriedly rushed out the moment they heard the gunshots and rushed toward the direction of the Liangpi stall. Someone reported that Silent Night's update time is too late. In order to take care of our brothers and sisters' work and rest time, Silent Night has decided to adjust the update time to the daytime. This is the first chapter. There will be 3 chapters tomorrow during the daytime, 9 a.m., 3 p.m., and 9 p.m. respectively. Brothers and sisters, please inform each other in the book review section and reader group. Chapter 186. Inside a building 1,000 meters away, Wolfhead and Wang Ming clearly saw what was happening in front of the Lianpi stall through binoculars. They didn't expect Tan Xiu to be so decisive. In today's legal society, he dared to kill people. He's very smart. Wolfhead looked at Tan Xiu's disappearing figure, and an extraordinary splendor flashed across his eyes. Wang Ming frowned and said, "Why do you say that?" After he broke the stall owner's neck, he snatched the pistol and shot the two killers. He didn't throw the pistol on the ground but directly took it with him. Also, did you notice his footsteps? He had been walking on his toes. He knew that once the police arrived at the crime scene, they would conduct an investigation. The most basic investigation method was to scan the footprints on the ground. Moreover, his previous appearance at the entrance of South Gate Town is bound to be investigated by the police. If we make him compare the footprints at the crime scene, he will be exposed. Wang Ming nodded and sighed in admiration. It's really a waste of talent that he didn't join the army. Wolfhead shook his head and said, "He's not suited to be a soldier." Wang Ming was surprised. "What do you mean?" Wolfhead said, "He's too ruthless and has no scruples in handling things. He's not suitable for military discipline. Once he joins the army and becomes a soldier like us, he's bound to cause big trouble." Wang Ming nodded and asked, "What should we do next? Cooperate with the police to arrest him?" Wolfhead turned his head and looked deeply at Wang Ming as he coldly said, "Why do you want to cooperate with the police? One should not meddle in politics if one is not in a position. We've already taken off our military uniforms, so there's no need for us to get involved. Don't forget that it wasn't easy for us to get rid of our pursuers and sneak into Star City. Do you want to expose our whereabouts again?" After a moment of silence, Wang Ming said bitterly, "If we show up, we'll definitely be monitored by the state." Wolfhead sneered and said, "Let's see what Tan Xiu is going to do next. If he can solve this matter perfectly without causing any trouble, it proves that he is capable and worthy of our following. If he gets into trouble and doesn't meet my expectations, then we'll go our separate ways." "All right." Wang Ming nodded silently. Wolfhead was silent for a moment before he turned around and threw the binoculars in his hand on the table. Then, he said in a deep voice, "You guys continue to monitor here. I'll go out for a while." Wang Ming quickly said, "Wolfhead, don't tell me you want to keep a close watch on Tan Xiu. This guy is vicious and merciless. If he accidentally treats you, I don't even have the ability to protect myself if he misunderstood me," said Wolfhead indifferently. "I don't think he needs trash like us. All right, wait for me to come back. The tree longs for peace, but the wind never ceases." Tan Xiu did not know who it was that hated him to the bone, to the extent that they did not hesitate to hire 3 powerful killers to kill him. However, he wasn't a soft persimmon. Adhering to the principle of, "I won't offend people if they don't offend me, but if they offend me, I'll definitely offend them," he didn't return to the South Gate Town after leaving the Liangpi stall. Instead, he went to a secluded place on the other side, took out his mobile, and dialed the number given by the Liangpi stall's owner. The call was connected, but the other party did not speak. Tan Xiu was silent for more than 10 seconds before he slowly said, "I'm Tan Xiu. I'll give you 10 times the reward. Tell me the answer I want. Are they dead?" A deep and low voice finally came from the phone. "Yes," Tan Xiu said. "They're all dead." The person on the phone fell into silence again. This time, he was silent for a full half a minute before he slowly said, "Transfer 200 million to my account. I don't like trouble, so I hope you can tidy up the ending for me. The account number is..." Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and dialed Kang Xia's cell number. After he learned that the 300 million he just gave her had not been spent yet, he immediately said, "Give me 200 million and transfer it to the account I'll give you immediately." Be quick. Kang Xia forced a smile and said, Boss. What do you want to do? It's not easy for me to get some money, but you. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask and transfer the money immediately, said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. All right. Kang Xia complied and then transferred 200 million to the account according to Tan Xiu's instruction. In the afternoon, the staff of the property management office delivered an express delivery to his home. Tan Xiu had been waiting for the news. After receiving the express delivery, he opened it and took a few glances. A dense killing intent surged in his heart. Zhang Deqin. Tan Xiu remembered the appearance of this woman. When he went to the Rising Dragon Martial School to challenge the school and even asked for 100 million, Zhang Deqin sent him a video message the next day. She told Tan Xiu that she was out of the country and couldn't get away to go back. Moreover, she solemnly apologized to Tan Xiu and promised that she wouldn't do anything wrong again in the future. It was just a small grudge. Tan Xiu had never taken it to heart. Not to mention that the other party had already apologized, so he didn't feel like tidying up the siblings. But he didn't expect that Zhang Deqin turned out to be a woman who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. She didn't even hesitate to spend 20 million to hire assassins. On the same night, Tan Xiu quietly came to Long Zhengyu's residence. Although it was already late at night, Tan Xiu could be sure that Long Zhengyu hadn't rested since the whole building was brightly lit. Releasing his spiritual sense, Tan Xiu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Long Zhengyu was working on the bed at the moment, and there were more than one opponents around him. This guy, Tan Xiu hid in the dark shade of the villa's courtyard and waited for 10 minutes. He paid attention to the end of Long Zhengyu's fight. Then, he picked up a stone and fiercely smashed it toward the bedroom's glass on the second floor. Bang! The glass of the bedroom's window on the second floor was smashed. On the soft bed, Long Zhengyu stood up with satisfaction and was about to take a bath in the bathroom. Suddenly, he saw the glass was smashed, and his complexion greatly changed. He quickly grabbed his pajamas and quickly put them on. Then, he flashed to the glass window and looked outside while shouting, "Who's there?" Tan Xiu came out from the shade of the tree and waved to Long Zhengyu before quickly retreating. Long Zhengyu's expression slightly stagnated after he clearly saw Tan Xiu's appearance. Never in his dreams did he expect that the one who came to smash his house's glass would turn out to be Tan Xiu. It was because he had never told Tan Xiu his address. However, he quickly came out and looked at Tan Xiu, who was leaning on the tree's shade. He forced a smile and said, "Brother Tang, I didn't offend you, did I? You didn't sleep in the middle of the night and came to my house to smash my window. What's your intention?" "I need your help with something," said Tan Xiu. Long Zhengyu rolled his eyes and snappily said, "If there's something you need my help with, just call me directly." "Why did you smash my house's glass?" "Fortunately, you just smashed it. Had it been a few minutes earlier, I would have been scared to the point of impotence." "I have some medicine to treat impotence," said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. Long Zhengyu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. "All right, stop bragging. Hurry up and tell me, what's the matter?" A strange light flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he asked, "Is there a grudge between your Long family and the Zhang family of Star City?" "The Zhang family?" Long Zhengyu stared blankly for a moment before he immediately shook his head and said, "It's not a grudge, just a competitor. But we also have some small frictions in private." Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and then asked, "What will happen to the Zhang family if Zhang Deqin and Zhang Yongjin are dead?" Long Zhengyu stared blankly and asked in horror, "What do you want to do?" Tan Xiu coldly said, "Those two siblings must die. So, answer my question." Long Zhengyu looked at Tan Xiu with disbelief and whispered, "Brother Tang, you must think twice before you act. The Zhang family has been operating in Star City for decades, so they are definitely deeply rooted. Even if we, the Long family, want to move against them, we will have to suffer heavy losses. Once you kill them, the Zhang family will retaliate by hook or by crook." Tan Xiu said, the reason why I came to you is because I have considered the consequences of the Zhang family's retaliation. I just want to ask you, if your Long family and Qin Zhizhong join hands, can you deal with the Zhang family? Long Zhengyu pondered for a moment before he forced a smile and said, that will be very difficult. At most, we can only make the Zhang family suffer heavy losses. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and slowly said, is it possible for external forces to intervene in this matter? Long Zhengyu was surprised, you mean forces outside of Star City? For example, Chu Yi's family and Bai Tao's family? Or the Ouyang family? You can count them in as well, said Tan Xiu. Long Zhengyu was excited and quickly said, if they are willing to participate, we can exterminate the Zhang family. However, Chu Yi's and Bai Tao's families are in the imperial capital, and they also have many hostile forces eyeing them covetously. If they make a big move, the hostile families will definitely catch them. The Ouyang family can participate, but can Ouyang Lulu make the decision? Tan Xiu said, then there's no need to involve Chu Yi and Bai Tao. I'll solve the Ouyang family's problem. I'll give you 2 days to collect all the information about the Zhang family and give me a copy. I'll meet you 2 days later and we'll talk about it in detail at that time. Long Zhengyu quickly said, no problem. I'll give you the detailed information as soon as possible. However, you must not act in advance. If the Zhangs really provoke you, I can find someone to clean up the Zhang siblings first to vent your anger. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, no need. Having said that, Tan Xiu didn't stay for long. Under Long Zhengyu's watchful gaze, he lightly flipped over the wall and left. It was an empty street with a dark alley. After leaving Long Zhengyu's residence, Tan Xiu's heart was still shrouded in a sense of crisis. Although he had killed 3 assassins with his own hands, he still felt that there was a pair of eyes watching him in the dark. However, he used his spiritual sense to cover the surroundings, yet he didn't find the enemy's existence. An expert. Tan Xiu could be sure that the other party was definitely a detection expert. Otherwise, it was impossible for the other party to lurk in the distance and secretly monitor him. The park? Tan Xiu's footsteps stopped at the park's entrance. His mind turned sharply as he immediately flipped over the wall and entered the park. He then disappeared into the woods in the park. He needed to uncover the person hiding in the dark, otherwise he wouldn't be able to eat and sleep well. The subscription data has been declining recently. Everyone is fattening up. Please subscribe automatically, brothers and sisters. This is what Quiet Night needs the most. Thank you. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.